This video was made thanks to this awesome request. Thank you for the title suggestion, and happy watching.
Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Curikens. If you're a fan of My Hero Academia, especially awesome fanfiction stories all about Deku, you're definitely in the right place. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow anime fans, and subscribe so you never miss a new upload. Also, if you have an awesome idea or title for the next fanfiction video, drop it in the comment below. I'd love to read your suggestions. And hey, if you want to support the channel even more and keep me extra motivated to create awesome content, consider joining our channel membership. By becoming a member, you'll unlock cool perks like exclusive loyalty badges and custom stickers you can use in the comments. If you've already joined, thank you so much. Your support truly means the world to me and helps keep this channel going. Alright, let's get right into the story.
The battlefield was already collapsing. Broken concrete covered the ground, smoke drifted between the ruins, and distant explosions continued to shake what remained of the city. Izuku Midoriya stood in the middle of the destruction, his costume torn in several places. Blood ran down one side of his face, but he remained standing. His fists were clenched. One for all was still coursing through his body. Green lightning crackled around his arms and legs. The battle had finally reached its end. The enemy in front of him had fallen. Izuku took a deep breath. It's over. He barely managed to finish the sentence. The air behind him suddenly distorted. Izuku turned. His eyes widened. What? A black crack appeared in the sky. It wasn't a portal like any quirk he had ever seen. The space itself seemed to split apart, revealing a swirling darkness filled with strange flashes of light. Danger sense immediately activated. Izuku's entire body tensed. Danger. The crack expanded. Whoom. A violent force exploded from it. Izuku was thrown into the air. GH. He immediately activated float. Green lightning burst from his legs as he tried to stabilize himself. Blackwhip. Several black tendrils shot toward a nearby building. They wrapped around a steel support. For a moment, Izuku managed to stop himself. Then the support snapped. Crack. His eyes widened. Seriously. The distortion pulled harder. Izuku tried to use FA Jin. Then gear shift. Then Blackwhip again. Nothing worked. The strange force was stronger than anything he had encountered. I can't get back. He reached toward the ground. There was nobody there. No Bakugo. No Uraraka. No All Might. No classmates. Only the ruined city beneath him. The distortion swallowed him completely. Everything went black. Izuku opened his eyes. Cold wind hit his face. He immediately pushed himself up. His surroundings were completely unfamiliar. There were no skyscrapers from Musudafu. No hero agencies. No roads filled with cars. Instead, he saw enormous stone formations scattered across a barren landscape. Strange black crystals grew from the ground. Some were as small as rocks. Others were taller than a person. Izuku stared at them carefully. Those aren't normal crystals. He slowly stood. His danger sense remained silent. That was strange. The area looked dangerous, but there was no immediate threat. Izuku looked toward the horizon. A massive wall of dark clouds covered the sky. The clouds were moving unnaturally fast. Then he heard something. A low rumble. Roar. Izuku turned toward the sound. Several strange creatures were moving between the rocks. They looked like animals, but their bodies were covered with strange growths. Izuku lowered his stance. I don't recognize that species. He reached for his phone. The screen flickered. No signal. Izuku frowned. Of course. He opened his notebook instead. The notebook was damaged, but most of the pages were still intact. He quickly wrote down what he had seen. Unknown crystals. Unknown wildlife. No communications. Unknown location. A sudden flash illuminated the horizon. Boom. Izuku looked up. The clouds had changed. A massive wave of dust was moving across the land. Then another flash appeared. This time, the ground trembled. That doesn't look like normal weather. Izuku activated Danger Sense. The quirk immediately reacted. Warning signals exploded inside his head. Danger. He looked toward the approaching storm. The wind became stronger. Rocks began flying through the air. Izuku quickly activated Blackwhip and anchored himself to a large stone formation. Whoom. The storm hit. Sand and debris blasted across the landscape. Izuku covered his face with one arm. This is insane. He activated full Cowling. Green lightning covered his body. Even with One for All at full control, the wind continued pushing him backward. He noticed several silhouettes in the distance. People. Izuku's eyes widened. There are people. He released Blackwhip. The tendrils stretched toward them. Hold on. He accelerated forward. Gear shift activated. The world seemed to slow around him. Izuku crossed the distance in seconds. He found a group of people huddled behind a damaged stone structure. There were 6 of them. None looked like ordinary humans. One had animal-like ears. Another had horns. A third had a long tail. Izuku stopped in front of them. Are you all right? The group stared at him. Their expressions were filled with fear. One of them pointed at Izuku. What are you? Izuku froze. What? The person backed away. You're not infected. Izuku looked confused. Infected. Another person coughed violently. Small black crystals could be seen beneath the skin of their neck. Izuku's expression changed immediately. You're injured. Don't come closer. The person raised a weapon. Izuku immediately raised both hands. I'm not going to hurt you. The weapon trembled. The stranger looked at Izuku's green hair, strange clothing, and glowing green lightning. You aren't from any country. Izuku looked around. I don't even know where I am. A loud explosion interrupted them. Boom. The ground shook. The approaching storm became even larger. Izuku looked toward the group. We need to move. Where? Somewhere protected. Izuku pointed toward a ruined structure farther away. There. The group hesitated. Izuku didn't wait. He grabbed a fallen metal beam with one hand and threw it aside. Whoom. The debris disappeared into the storm. The refugees stared at him. Izuku crouched. I'll carry the injured ones. Just stay close. Before anyone could answer, Blackwhip wrapped around 2 people. Izuku lifted them carefully. He activated float and shot forward. The others followed. Wind screamed around them. Crack. A massive chunk of rock flew toward the group. Izuku immediately moved. Smash. His fist struck the rock. Boom. The boulder shattered into dozens of pieces. The refugees stared at him. Izuku landed and continued running. Keep moving. After several seconds, they reached the ruined structure. Izuku brought everyone inside. The storm continued raging outside. He looked through the broken entrance. The sky was filled with dust and debris. Izuku slowly lowered his arm. What kind of place is this? One of the refugees remained silent for several seconds. Then she answered. Terra. Izuku turned toward her. Terra. She nodded. You really don't know. Izuku shook his head. No. The woman looked at him with confusion. Then where did you come from? Izuku looked toward the storm outside. He had no answer. Not yet. Suddenly, a distant mechanical sound reached his ears. Beep, beep, beep. Izuku immediately turned his head. Something was approaching. His danger sense activated again. Someone's coming. The refugees panicked. Reunion. No. They couldn't have found us this quickly. Izuku stepped in front of them. Blackwhip slowly emerged from his arms. Green lightning flickered around his body. Far beyond the storm, a massive landship moved across the wasteland. Its sensors had detected an abnormal energy signature. Inside the landship, several operators watched the monitor. One signal was unlike anything they had encountered before. And somewhere inside that enormous machine, the doctor silently studied the image of a green-haired stranger standing in the middle of a catastrophe. Izuku didn't know it yet, but his arrival in Terra had already been noticed. The storm lasted for nearly an hour. Izuku remained inside the ruined structure with the refugees, watching the dust move across the broken landscape. The strange crystals outside continued glowing faintly beneath the clouds. He had never seen anything like them. One of the refugees sat against a damaged wall, breathing heavily. Izuku immediately noticed, "Your breathing is getting worse." The young man looked at him. "I'm fine." "You're not." Izuku crouched in front of him. The crystals beneath the man's skin had spread farther across his neck since they had arrived. Izuku's expression became serious. "Does this happen often?" The man looked away. "It's Oripathy." Oripathy. The disease caused by Originium. Izuku glanced toward the black crystals outside. "Those crystals." The man nodded. "Yes." Izuku stood and walked toward the entrance. He looked at one of the crystals embedded in the ground. Originium. He carefully approached it. Danger sense remained silent. Izuku extended his hand. "Don't touch it." The refugees shouted. Izuku stopped. "Why? You'll get infected." Izuku looked at his hand. After a moment, he slowly touched the crystal. Nothing happened. The refugees stared. Izuku waited. 1 second. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. Still nothing. He pulled his hand away. "I'm fine." The group couldn't believe what they were seeing. The woman who had spoken to him earlier approached cautiously. "You touched pure Originium. Apparently, you should be infected." Izuku looked at the crystal again. "But I'm not." He didn't understand why. In his world, quirks were biological abilities passed through generations. This place operated under completely different rules. He looked down at his arm. One for all was still present. Green lightning flickered across his fingers. "Maybe my body is resistant." The woman shook her head. "No one is resistant." Izuku looked at her. "There's always an exception." She didn't answer. Another refugee suddenly began coughing. KHKH. Izuku immediately moved toward him. The man's body shook violently. "Hey!" Izuku caught him before he fell. The black crystals across his chest were spreading. Izuku clenched his teeth. "Does anyone have medicine?" The refugees shook their heads. "We used everything we had." Izuku looked at the man's condition. He had no medical equipment. No trained doctor. No idea how Oripathy worked. But leaving him like this wasn't an option. "Stay here." Izuku carefully lifted the man. "Where are you going?" "Somewhere that can help him." "There's nowhere nearby." Izuku looked outside. His eyes narrowed. "Then I'll find somewhere." He activated full cowling. Green lightning covered his body. The refugees immediately stepped back. "What are you doing?" "Finding help." Izuku shot into the sky. Whoom. He crossed the ruined landscape at incredible speed. His eyes scanned the area. Nothing. Only ruined structures, strange creatures, and Originium deposits. Then his danger sense reacted. Izuku abruptly stopped in midair. Several hostile creatures were moving below. They were surrounding something. Izuku descended. He landed beside a collapsed building. Boom. Dust rose around his feet. "Move." The creatures turned toward him. They growled. "Roar." Izuku raised his fists. "I don't want to fight you." The creatures charged. Izuku sighed. "Guess that's not an option." Blackwhip shot forward. 3 creatures were caught immediately. Izuku pulled them away from the injured person trapped beneath the rubble. "Got you." Another creature jumped toward him. Izuku twisted his body. Smash. His fist struck the ground. The resulting shockwave knocked the creature backward without killing it. The remaining creatures fled. Izuku immediately turned toward the rubble. "Are you okay?" A small figure was trapped underneath. Izuku lifted the debris with one hand. Easy. The figure crawled out. Izuku froze. It was another infected. Small animal-like ears poked through their messy hair. You're safe. The child stared at him. You're strange. Izuku smiled awkwardly. I've heard that before. He carried the child back toward the refugees. After returning, Izuku examined everyone as carefully as he could. He noticed something unusual. None of the Originium crystals were growing on his body. Not even the smallest trace. He looked at his hands. If Originium causes Oripathy, his eyes narrowed. Why doesn't it affect me? Far away, another machine moved through the wasteland. Inside the landship, an operator watched several screens. The unidentified energy signature has stopped moving. Another operator adjusted the scanner. There are multiple life signs nearby. Any signs of Originium infection? Yes. Several. The operator hesitated. But there's one anomaly. The doctor stood silently in front of the monitor. The scanner displayed the biological readings. One subject had no tail, no horns, no animal ears, and no signs of Originium infection. The operator zoomed in. The readings don't match any known race. Amiya stood beside the doctor. Could he be an outsider? The doctor didn't answer. The image showed Izuku standing beside the refugees. Amiya looked closely. He's protecting them. The doctor nodded. Another signal appeared on the monitor. There are hostile units approaching the refugee group. Amiya's expression changed. We need to move. The doctor turned toward the operators. The landship changed direction. Meanwhile, Izuku heard something approaching. His danger sense reacted. Again, he stepped outside. The refugees followed. Far across the wasteland, several armed figures appeared. They were approaching the ruined shelter. Izuku's expression hardened. He stepped forward. Green lightning began crackling around his body. Everyone stay behind me. The refugees froze. Izuku lowered his stance. I'll handle this. The distant landship continued approaching. And for the first time since arriving in Terra, Izuku Midoriya was about to meet the people who would change the course of his new life. The armed figures continued approaching the ruined shelter. Izuku stood between them and the refugees. His fists were clenched. Green lightning flickered around his arms. Stay behind me. The refugees obeyed. The strangers stopped several meters away. They wore heavy armor and carried rifles. One of them raised his weapon. Step away from the infected. Izuku frowned. They're injured civilians. They're infected. I know. Then move. Izuku shook his head. No. The soldier raised his rifle. Last warning. Izuku's danger sense suddenly exploded inside his head. Danger. Not from the weapon. From everything. The people behind the soldiers were afraid. The refugees were terrified. Even the soldiers seemed nervous. Izuku narrowed his eyes. Something was wrong. Why are you hunting them? The soldier didn't answer. Another soldier stepped forward. They're infected. That's enough. Izuku's expression hardened. That's not an answer. The rifle fired. Bang. Izuku vanished. The bullet passed through empty air. He appeared directly in front of the soldier. Before the man could react, Izuku grabbed the barrel and pushed it toward the ground. Don't. The soldier tried to pull the weapon back. Izuku twisted it. Crack. The rifle broke. The soldier stumbled backward. What the hell are you? Izuku didn't answer. Another soldier fired. Bang. 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 Blackwhip shot from Izuku's arm. The tendrils caught every rifle and ripped them from the soldier's hands. Stop. Izuku swung the weapons away. They landed several meters behind him. The soldiers stared at him. Izuku took a step forward. I don't want to fight. One of them pulled a knife. Izuku sighed. Then don't make me. The soldier charged. Izuku moved. A single kick sent the man flying into a pile of rubble. Boom. The soldier crashed through the stones and fell unconscious. The others froze. Izuku stood completely still. He hadn't even used 20% of One for All. Leave. None of them moved. Then one soldier shouted, "Kill him." Several weapons appeared. Izuku's eyes widened. Seriously. Green lightning exploded around his body. Full cowling surged through his muscles. Whoom. He disappeared. One soldier was disarmed. Another was thrown into the dirt. A third was caught by Blackwhip and suspended several meters above the ground. Izuku moved between them so quickly that the refugees could barely follow him. Within seconds, every soldier was down. None were dead. Izuku landed quietly. He looked at the unconscious soldiers. They're alive. One of the refugees stared at him. You defeated all of them. Izuku scratched his cheek. They weren't very strong. Then Danger Sense screamed again. Izuku immediately turned his head. Something's coming. A massive shadow appeared behind the distant hills. The ground began shaking. Boom, boom, boom. The refugees looked toward the horizon. A large Originium creature emerged from the dust. Its body was covered in black crystals. It roared. Roar. The smaller refugees screamed. Izuku stepped forward. Everyone get inside. The creature charged. Izuku activated gear shift. His body disappeared. Whoom. He appeared directly above the creature. Detroit smash. His fist slammed into its back. Boom. The creature crashed into the ground. A massive shockwave spread across the wasteland. Izuku landed. The creature slowly tried to stand. Izuku frowned. It's tougher than I expected. The monster roared again. Roar. It swung one enormous arm. Izuku ducked beneath it. Blackwhip wrapped around the limb. Got you. He pulled. The creature lost its balance. Izuku grabbed it with both hands. Smash. He threw it across the wasteland. Boom. The creature disappeared into a distant pile of rocks. Izuku waited. Nothing moved. He relaxed slightly. That should do it. A voice came from behind him. Impressive. Izuku turned. A large landship had stopped in the distance. Its enormous structure towered above the wasteland. Several armed individuals were approaching. This time, however, they weren't attacking. A young girl with animal-like ears walked at the front. Beside her was a tall figure wearing a dark hood and mask. Izuku immediately noticed something strange about the masked person. He couldn't read their expression. The girl stepped forward. My name is Amiya. Izuku lowered his guard slightly. Izuku Midoriya. Amiya looked at the unconscious soldiers. Then at the refugees. Finally, she looked at the creature Izuku had defeated. Did you do all of this? Izuku nodded. They were attacking the refugees. Amiya looked toward the infected civilians. Her expression softened. You protected them. They needed help. The masked figure remained silent. Izuku looked at them. Are you the doctor? The figure nodded. Izuku blinked. That's actually your name. Amiya gave a small smile. That's what everyone calls them. Izuku nodded slowly. Okay. A medic from the landship approached one of the refugees. We need to get them inside immediately. Izuku stepped aside. Please help them. Amiya looked at Izuku. You should come with us too. Izuku pointed at himself. Me? Yes. Why? Amiya hesitated. Because you're injured. Izuku looked down. There were several cuts across his costume. These. He touched one. They're nothing. Amiya shook her head. And because we've never seen someone like you before. Izuku became cautious. What do you mean? Amiya looked at his face. You aren't infected. Izuku nodded. I know. You touched Originium. Yes. And you fought an Originium creature without using arts. Izuku blinked. Arts. Amiya looked confused. You don't know what arts are. No. The doctor finally spoke. Then we need to talk. Izuku looked toward the landship. The refugees were already being carried inside. He hesitated. Then he nodded. All right. As Izuku walked toward the landship, he looked back at the wasteland. This world was nothing like his own. The people here feared a disease he had never heard of. They fought with weapons and strange powers called arts. And something called Originium could apparently kill them. Izuku clenched his fist. He still didn't understand Terra. But he knew one thing. There were people here who needed help. And now, he had somewhere to start looking for answers. Behind him, the doctor watched silently. Amiya walked beside Izuku. And far away, the defeated soldiers began reporting the appearance of an unknown green-haired man who had stopped an entire squad without killing a single person. The news would not remain a secret for long. The landship moved across the wasteland at a steady pace. Izuku sat inside one of the medical rooms while a Rhodes Island medic examined the cuts across his arms. These wounds should have been much worse. Izuku looked at the small scanner in the medic's hand. They're just scratches. You were caught in a catastrophe. I've been through worse. The medic stared at him for a moment before continuing the examination. Izuku looked around the room. Everything was unfamiliar. The medical equipment wasn't like anything he had seen in Japan. Several devices used glowing crystals as their power source, while strange symbols appeared on the monitors. He pointed toward one of them. Is that Originium? The medic nodded. Yes. Izuku immediately pulled his hand back. Right. The medic noticed. You're worried about infection. I've been told it's dangerous. It is. Izuku looked at his own hands. But I touched it earlier. We know. And nothing happened. The medic became quiet. Izuku looked toward her. That's unusual, isn't it? Extremely. The door opened. Amiya entered the room. The refugees are being treated. Izuku immediately sat upright. Are they going to be okay? The most seriously injured ones are stable. Izuku relaxed. That's good. Amiya sat across from him. Izuku, we need to ask you some questions. Okay. Where are you from? Izuku hesitated. Japan. Amiya waited. Which country is that? Izuku blinked. Japan. There is no country called Japan on Terra. Izuku stared at her. What? Amiya shook her head. We checked our records. There is no nation, city, or region with that name. Izuku slowly leaned back. Then, he looked at the floor. I'm not on Earth anymore. Amiya didn't immediately respond. Izuku rubbed his forehead. I thought maybe I had been transported somewhere else on Earth. Transported. There was a strange distortion before I arrived here. Amiya listened carefully. What kind of distortion? I don't know. Space opened behind me. Then it pulled me inside. The doctor stood near the door, silently listening. Izuku noticed. Doctor. The masked figure looked toward him. Do you know anything about dimensional phenomena? The doctor remained silent for a moment. Then they shook their head. Izuku sighed. Figured. Amiya looked at him. What is your ability? Izuku raised an eyebrow. My quirk. Amiya nodded. Yes. Izuku hesitated. It's called One for All. Amiya tilted her head. One for All. It's a power that has been passed down from one person to another. Amiya looked surprised. So your ability is inherited? Yes. And it allows you to use that much physical strength. Izuku nodded. Among other things. Amiya glanced toward the medical scanner. You also mentioned something called Blackwhip. Izuku lifted his hand. Black tendrils emerged from his arm. Amiya immediately leaned forward. The Blackwhip moved like living cables before disappearing again. That is another ability. Yes. How many abilities do you have? Izuku counted silently. Several. Amiya's eyes widened. Several. One for All has accumulated different quirks over the years. Amiya stared at him. You have multiple abilities inside one body. Basically. The doctor suddenly walked closer. They placed a small device near Izuku's arm. The scanner activated. Beep, beep, beep. The screen displayed a complicated biological reading. The doctor's posture changed. Izuku noticed. Something wrong. The doctor pointed toward the screen. Amiya looked at it. His Originium concentration is 0. The medic standing nearby looked shocked. Completely 0. Yes. Izuku looked between them. What does that mean? Amiya answered quietly. Everyone in Terra has some level of exposure. And I don't. Apparently not. Izuku stared at the scanner. So that's good, right? The doctor nodded. But their expression remained serious. Amiya noticed. Doctor. The doctor pointed toward another part of the scan. The medic's eyes widened. His muscle density. Izuku looked confused. What about it? It's abnormal. How abnormal? The medic checked the scanner again. Your body is far stronger than it should be. Izuku scratched his cheek. One for all does that. But your cells don't resemble any known race. Izuku became quiet. Amiya looked at him. We don't know what you are. Izuku frowned. I'm human. The room became silent. The medic looked at Amiya. Amiya looked at the doctor. Izuku sighed. Human. That's what we call our species. Amiya nodded slowly. Then you're the first human I've ever met. Izuku looked surprised. Really? As far as we know. Before Izuku could respond, the entire landship suddenly shook. Boom. The lights flickered. Izuku immediately stood. What was that? An alarm sounded throughout the medical room. Beep. 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 Amiya rushed toward the door. We're under attack. Izuku followed. The doctor moved with them. As they entered the main corridor, several operators were already running toward their positions. What's happening? Amiya received a report through her communicator. Several armed vehicles are following us. Who? Unknown. Another explosion shook the landship. Boom. Izuku grabbed the wall to steady himself. How many? At least 20. Amiya looked at Izuku. You don't have to fight. Izuku looked at her. They're attacking your ship. Yes. And there are injured people inside. Amiya nodded. Izuku clenched his fists. Green lightning appeared around his body. Then I'm helping. The doctor looked toward him. Izuku smiled slightly. You brought me here and you're treating the people I found. Blackwhip emerged from his arm. I'm not going to stand around while someone attacks you. Amiya smiled. Thank you. The landship doors opened. Strong winds rushed through the corridor. Outside, several armored vehicles were racing across the wasteland. Their weapons were already aimed at Rhodes Island. One of them fired. Boom. The projectile flew directly toward the landship. Izuku's eyes widened. Not happening. He jumped. Float activated. Gear shift followed. His body accelerated forward. Whoom. Izuku intercepted the projectile in midair. He grabbed it with both hands. The force pushed him backward. NGH. Green lightning exploded around his arms. Move. He redirected the projectile toward the empty wasteland. Boom. A massive explosion erupted far from the landship. The operators stared. Amiya looked up at him. Izuku floated above the battlefield. Green lightning crackled around his body. Below him, the enemy vehicles continued advancing. Izuku slowly lowered his fists. All right. His eyes sharpened. Let's get this over with. The enemy vehicles continued racing toward Rhodes Island. Izuku hovered above the battlefield, green lightning crackling around his body. Below him, the landship moved steadily through the wasteland. Another projectile was fired. Whoosh. Izuku immediately activated Danger Sense. There. Blackwhip shot from his arm and wrapped around the projectile. He pulled it upward. The projectile changed direction and exploded high above the landship. Boom. The shockwave spread through the clouds. Izuku landed on the front section of the landship. Amiya arrived moments later. There are too many. Izuku looked at the approaching vehicles. How many? 23. Izuku's eyes widened. 23. Yes. Izuku looked at the battlefield. The vehicles were heavily armored, and several of them had mounted weapons. He cracked his knuckles. Then I'll stop them before they get closer. Amiya grabbed his arm. Wait. Izuku turned. What? Don't hurt them unnecessarily. Izuku nodded. I wasn't planning to. He crouched. Green lightning intensified. I'll disable their vehicles. Be careful. Izuku smiled. I will. Then he vanished. Whoom. The first vehicle never saw him coming. Izuku landed on its roof. Boom. The metal roof bent beneath his feet. The driver looked upward. What? Blackwhip entered through the side window and pulled the steering mechanism apart. The vehicle swerved. Izuku jumped away. It crashed into a pile of sand. Boom. The second vehicle fired. Izuku changed direction in midair. Gear shift accelerated his movement. He appeared beside the vehicle. Smash. His fist struck the front wheel. Boom. The wheel shattered. The vehicle spun sideways and stopped. Izuku continued. 1, 2, 3, 5, 10. Within minutes, the entire convoy had been disabled. The remaining soldiers stepped out. They raised their weapons. Izuku landed several meters away. Don't. The soldiers hesitated. Your vehicles are disabled. Izuku pointed toward Rhodes Island. Leave. One soldier shouted. Who are you? Izuku paused. Izuku Midoriya. What are you? Izuku smiled awkwardly. Human. The soldier looked confused. Before the situation could escalate, Amiya landed beside Izuku. Stand down. The soldiers looked at her. Rhodes Island. Amiya's eyes narrowed. You attacked our landship without warning. The soldiers looked at Izuku. Then at the destroyed vehicles. None of them wanted to continue. They lowered their weapons. Izuku relaxed. Good. Back inside Rhodes Island, Izuku returned to the medical department. Calcit was waiting. She stood beside the examination equipment, her expression unreadable. Izuku stopped. You must be Calcit. Yes. She looked him over. Sit. Izuku sat. Calcit connected several scanners to his arms. Beep. 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 The results appeared. Calcit stared at the monitor. Again. The medic repeated the scan. The result remained unchanged. Calcit's expression became slightly more serious. No Originium crystals. Izuku nodded. Right. No signs of infection. Okay. No traces of arts. I don't know what arts are. Calcit looked at him. And yet you redirected an explosive projectile with your bare hands. Izuku scratched his cheek. One for all. That explanation is insufficient. Izuku blinked. It's really the explanation. Calcit continued examining him. Your cardiovascular system is abnormal. How? Your heart is capable of maintaining an output that would destroy an ordinary person's body. Izuku nodded. That used to be a problem. Calcit looked at him. Used to. I learned how to control it. She paused. Your skeletal structure has adapted as well. Izuku smiled. That's good. Your muscle fibers have undergone extensive reinforcement. Also good. Calcit stared at him. You're taking this remarkably well. Izuku shrugged. I've had a complicated body for years. Calcit continued. Your cells also show no reaction to Originium exposure. Izuku looked at her. So I'm immune. I wouldn't call it immunity yet. Then what? Anomaly. Izuku sighed. Everyone keeps calling me that. Calcit ignored the comment. We need to perform additional tests. Izuku became cautious. What kind? Blood analysis. Tissue analysis. Cellular examination. Izuku's eyes widened. Tissue examination. Calcit nodded. Small samples. Izuku immediately leaned backward. I'd rather not. Amiya, standing nearby, covered a small smile. Calcit looked at him. You were willing to fight 23 armed vehicles. That's different. How? They don't involve needles. Amiya laughed softly. Calcit remained expressionless. Fine. Izuku relaxed. Thank you. We'll begin with blood. Izuku's shoulders dropped. That's still a needle. After several hours, the examination finally ended. Izuku sat in the medical room with a small bandage on his arm. Calcit reviewed the results. The more she read, the quieter she became. Amiya stood beside her. What did you find? Calcit looked at Izuku. His blood is unusual. Izuku looked nervous. Bad unusual? No. Calcit placed the report on the table. Your body appears to have an extraordinary capacity for adaptation. Izuku listened carefully. Your quirk has altered your physical structure over time. Yes. But that's not the most interesting part. Calcit tapped the report. Your body is completely unaffected by Originium. Izuku nodded. So you said. The difference is that your cells don't merely resist it. Izuku looked at her. What do they do? They don't recognize it. Izuku blinked. Calcit continued. To your body, Originium appears to be little more than an inert mineral. Amiya looked surprised. That's impossible. According to every medical record we have, yes. Izuku looked toward the window. Outside, Originium crystals reflected the light of the setting sun. Then maybe I'm really from somewhere else. Calcit looked at him. I believe you. Izuku turned. You do. Your biology is evidence enough. Izuku smiled slightly. Thank you. Calcit closed the report. But your presence creates another problem. Izuku waited. You have no identity in Terra. Right. No citizenship. Right. No records. Right. Calcit looked directly at him. And no known connection to any nation. Izuku sighed. So I'm basically a nobody. Amiya shook her head. Not anymore. Izuku looked at her. Amiya smiled. You protected our patients. You protected this landship. And you saved people you didn't know. Izuku became quiet. Amiya continued. Rhodes Island can give you temporary protection. Izuku's eyes widened. Really? Calcit nodded. Provided you follow our rules. Izuku immediately stood. I will. Calcit looked at him. You haven't heard the rules. Izuku froze. Right. Amiya laughed. Later that evening, Izuku walked through the corridors of Rhodes Island. Operators passed by. Some stared. Others whispered. That's him. The outsider. The one who stopped the convoy. Apparently. Izuku became embarrassed. Everyone knows already. Amiya walked beside him. Rhodes Island is a small community. I noticed. They reached a large observation window. Outside, the wasteland stretched into the distance. Originium crystals glowed beneath the dark sky. Izuku stared at them. Terra is really different. Amiya nodded. Yes. And there's still a lot I don't understand. You'll learn. Izuku looked at her. What happens now? Amiya smiled. For tonight. She pointed down the corridor. You get some rest. Izuku laughed. That's probably a good idea. He took several steps. Then stopped. Amiya. Yes. Thank you. Amiya smiled. You're welcome, Izuku. Far above the landship, the stars slowly appeared. Izuku entered his temporary room and placed his damaged notebook on the desk. He opened a new page. At the top, he wrote, Terra. Below it, he began listing everything he had learned. Originium, Oripathy, Arts, Infected, Rhodes Island, and one final entry. People here need help. Izuku closed the notebook. Green lightning briefly flickered around his fingers. He looked toward the window. Tomorrow, he would start learning about Terra. And eventually, he would have to decide what kind of hero he could become in a world that had never heard of heroes like the ones he knew. The next morning, Izuku woke up earlier than expected. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the unfamiliar room. For a few seconds, he forgot where he was. Then he remembered. Terra, Rhodes Island, Oripathy, Originium. Izuku sighed and reached for his notebook. Right. He opened a fresh page. Rhodes Island. Independent organization. Main objective. Treatment of Oripathy. Infected. Heavily discriminated against in many regions. He paused. Then added another line. Current status. Temporary guest. Izuku closed the notebook. A knock came from the door. Izuku. Amiya's voice. Come in. The door opened. Amiya entered with 2 cups of something warm. Good morning. Morning. She handed one to him. Izuku took it carefully. What is this? Coffee. He smelled it. Smells good. Amiya smiled. You've been awake for a while. I was making notes. About Terra. Everything I know so far. Amiya looked at the notebook. You really like writing things down. Izuku smiled awkwardly. It helps me understand things. Amiya nodded. Then you'll have a lot to write about today. Izuku looked at her. Why? Calcet approved your temporary registration. Izuku blinked. Registration. Amiya handed him a small device. Rhodes Island needs to know who is allowed to operate on missions. Izuku looked at the screen. His name appeared. Izuku Midoriya. Status. External operator. Affiliation. Rhodes Island. Infection status. Uninfected. Combat classification. Pending. Izuku stared. Operator. Amiya nodded. If you're willing. Izuku looked at the screen. Then at Amiya. Does being an operator mean I can help people? Yes. Then I'm willing. The system updated. Registration accepted. Operator profile created. Codename required. Izuku blinked. Codename. Amiya nodded. Most operators use one. Izuku thought for a moment. Deku. Amiya tilted her head. Deku. Izuku nodded. It's a name I've had for a long time. Amiya smiled. Then Deku it is. The system changed again. Operator codename. Deku. Class. Pending. Combat evaluation required. Izuku looked at the screen. Combat evaluation. Amiya nodded. Calcet wants to see what you can do. Izuku sighed. I knew there would be a test. The training room was already occupied. Several operators stood around the edge of the field. Izuku recognized some of them from his brief time aboard the landship. Others were completely unfamiliar. Calcet stood at the center. The doctor stood beside her. Amiya was nearby. Calcet looked at Izuku. Your physical abilities are unusual. Izuku nodded. I've been told. We need to determine how you function as an operator. All right. Calcet pointed toward the training field. Your objective is simple. A group of automated training drones emerged from the floor. Disable them. Izuku looked at the machines. How many? 20. Izuku smiled. Okay. The timer started. Beep. The first drone fired. Bang. Izuku moved. Whoosh. He appeared behind it. Blackwhip wrapped around its body. Got you. He threw it toward another drone. Boom. Both machines crashed together. 3 more drones fired. Izuku activated danger sense. His body moved before he consciously reacted. He ducked. The projectiles passed over his head. Blackwhip shot toward the ceiling. Izuku swung forward. Smash. His foot struck one drone. Boom. It crashed into the wall. Another drone approached from behind. Izuku twisted. Fa Jin. Energy released from his stored movement. Whoom. He accelerated forward. His fist stopped centimeters from the drone. The pressure wave alone knocked it backward. The machine crashed. Crack. Its armor broke. The spectators became silent. Izuku looked at his fist. Oops. Calcet remained expressionless. Continue. Izuku nodded. The remaining drones surrounded him. Danger sense activated. Izuku smiled. All right. Blackwhip spread from his arms. Several tendrils shot across the room. One drone was pulled down. Another was thrown into the air. Izuku jumped. Gear shift activated. The world slowed. He moved through the air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He disabled every drone without striking them directly. Then he landed. The final machine charged. Izuku stepped forward. Blackwhip. The tendril wrapped around its torso. He pulled. The machine slid across the floor. Then stopped directly in front of him. Izuku tapped its head. Done. The timer stopped. 0:18. Silence. Amiya stared at the display. 18 seconds. One of the operators whispered. That's ridiculous. Another nodded. He didn't even use his full strength. Calcet walked toward Izuku. Your control is impressive. Thank you. You avoid lethal force. Izuku nodded. That's important. Calcet looked at the destroyed drones. You could have destroyed them instantly. Yes. Why didn't you? Izuku looked at her. Because they're training equipment. Calcet stared at him. Izuku added quickly. And because the same principle applies to people. Calcet nodded. Acceptable. She turned toward the doctor. I've seen enough. The doctor nodded. Amiya smiled. Does that mean he's officially an operator? Calcet looked at Izuku. Yes. The system updated. Operator classification complete. Codename. Deku. Class. Guard. Secondary classification. Vanguard. Combat style. Close range mobility restraint. Threat level. High. Izuku stared at the screen. Guard and Vanguard. Calcet answered. Your fighting style doesn't fit into one category. Izuku nodded. That's fine. Amiya walked toward him. Welcome to Rhodes Island, Operator Deku. Izuku smiled. Thank you. His first mission came that same afternoon. A group of infected civilians had been attacked by armed men near an abandoned settlement. Rhodes Island needed someone to retrieve them. Izuku joined the mission. Amiya would accompany him. The doctor would lead the operation. Several other operators were assigned as support. When they arrived, Izuku immediately activated Danger Sense. There are enemies inside. Amiya looked at him. How many? 12. The doctor signaled the team. Izuku moved forward. A gunshot rang out. Bang. Blackwhip caught the bullet. Izuku stared at it. They're firing at us. Amiya raised her staff. Stay behind me. Izuku shook his head. I'll take the front. He launched himself forward. Whoom. 2 enemies rushed from the building. Izuku ducked under a blade. Blackwhip wrapped around the attacker's arm. Drop it. The weapon fell. Izuku swept the man's legs. Boom. He hit the ground. Another enemy attacked from the side. Izuku caught the punch. You're done. He gently pushed the man backward. The enemy crashed into a wooden crate. Crack. Izuku moved through the building. Every opponent he encountered was disarmed or restrained. None were seriously injured. When the final enemy surrendered, Izuku immediately looked around. Where are the infected? Amiya pointed toward another building. Inside. Izuku rushed there. The door was locked. He grabbed it. Blackwhip. The tendrils wrapped around the door. Rip. The door flew open. Inside were several infected civilians. Some were children. Izuku's expression softened. You're safe now. One child stared at him. Are you a hero? Izuku froze. He crouched. Something like that. The child smiled. You're green. Izuku laughed. Yeah. Amiya entered behind him. She watched as Izuku helped the civilians stand. The child's hand grabbed Izuku's sleeve. Don't leave. Izuku looked down. I won't. Amiya smiled quietly. The doctor watched from the doorway. The system displayed another notification. Mission completed. Civilian lives protected. 17. Enemy casualties. 0. Operator performance. Excellent. Izuku looked at the message. Then he looked at the rescued civilians. Good. Outside, the wind moved across the settlement. Terra remained dangerous. But Izuku had finally found a place where he could fight for people again. This time, he had no All Might beside him. No no familiar city, only Rhodes Island. And that was enough for now. The training session ended shortly before sunset. Izuku walked through the corridors of Rhodes Island with his notebook tucked beneath one arm. His new operator badge was attached to his jacket, still looking strangely unfamiliar. He stopped when he reached a large window overlooking the landship's interior. Operators moved through the halls. Some carried medical supplies. Others prepared weapons. Infected patients were escorted toward the medical wing. Everything was busy. Everything had a purpose. Izuku opened his notebook. Rhodes Island Operator Structure. Medical Division. Combat Operators. Logistics. Research. Command. He added another line. Leader. Amiya. Writing again. Izuku looked up. Amiya stood a few meters away. He closed the notebook halfway. Yeah, Amiya smiled. You've been doing that every time I see you. It's a habit. What are you writing now? Izuku showed her the page. I'm trying to understand how Rhodes Island works. Amiya looked at the notes. You've already written quite a lot. There's still a lot I don't understand. Amiya nodded. Then maybe I can help. Izuku smiled. Thanks. They continued walking. After several minutes, Amiya led him to a quiet observation room. The lights were dim. A large window overlooked the wasteland outside. Amiya sat down. Izuku took the opposite seat. Why did you bring me here? Amiya was silent for a moment. Because I wanted to talk without everyone else around. Izuku nodded. Okay. Amiya looked down at her hands. You're very strong. Izuku smiled awkwardly. I've trained for a long time. That's not what I mean. Izuku waited. When we found you, you were alone in the middle of a catastrophe. She looked toward the window. Then you protected infected civilians you didn't know. Izuku didn't answer. You didn't ask who they were. You didn't ask whether helping them would benefit you. Amiya looked back at him. You just helped. Izuku scratched his cheek. They needed help. Amiya smiled faintly. That's what I mean. Silence filled the room. Then Amiya spoke again. I'm afraid sometimes. Izuku looked at her. Of what? Making the wrong decision. Her fingers tightened. There are so many people depending on us. Infected people. Operators. Civilians. Entire cities. Izuku listened carefully. I have to make decisions that can affect everyone. She lowered her gaze. And sometimes I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Izuku understood the feeling. He remembered being a student. Being told that becoming a hero meant saving people. But the reality was always more complicated. He leaned forward. Can I ask you something? Amiya nodded. Why did you become a leader? Amiya paused. Because I wanted to help people. Izuku smiled. Then that's already a good reason. But is it enough? I don't know. Amiya looked surprised. Izuku continued. I've made mistakes too. You. Of course. Izuku laughed softly. I used to break my bones every time I used my power. Amiya's ears twitched. You did what? It wasn't very smart. Amiya stared at him. You seriously destroyed your own body. Yes. Why? Izuku looked away. Because I didn't know how to use my power properly. Amiya shook her head. That sounds painful. It was. She smiled. And you eventually learned. Yeah. Izuku looked at his hand. Green lightning flickered between his fingers. I learned that having power isn't enough. You need control. Amiya nodded. That's what I'm trying to learn. Izuku looked directly at her. Then don't try to carry everything alone. Amiya became quiet. You have operators around you. I know. Let them help. Amiya smiled. You sound like an experienced leader. Izuku immediately shook his head. No. No, I'm definitely not. Amiya laughed. You were very confident a moment ago. I was giving advice. That's different. Both laughed. The conversation continued for nearly an hour. Amiya explained the infected situation. She explained how many nations treated infected people as threats. She told him about Rhodes Island's goal. To develop a treatment. To protect infected people. To prevent unnecessary conflict. Izuku listened without interrupting. When she finished, he slowly closed his notebook. That's horrible. Amiya nodded. It is. Then I'll help. Amiya looked at him. You don't have to promise that. I know. Izuku smiled. I want to. Amiya's expression softened. Thank you. A sudden alarm interrupted them. Beep. 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 Amiya immediately stood. What happened? A voice came through the communication system. Amiya. We've detected a large group approaching. Enemy. Unknown. Izuku stood as well. Danger sense activated. His expression changed. They're hostile. Amiya looked at him. You can tell. Izuku nodded. Danger sense. How many? Izuku closed his eyes. He focused. About 30. Amiya grabbed her staff. Then we need to move. They reached the command deck. Several operators were already preparing. The doctor stood in front of the main display. A group of armed vehicles was approaching from the horizon. Amiya looked at the screen. Are they the same group from yesterday? An operator shook their head. Negative. Izuku studied the display. They're moving in formation. Amiya looked at him. Meaning, they're organized. Izuku pointed toward the screen. The vehicles on the sides are protecting the center. The operators looked at him. Izuku continued. The center vehicle is probably carrying the commander. The doctor looked at the map. Then nodded. Amiya smiled. Good observation. Izuku opened his notebook. There's more. He marked several locations. The terrain here is uneven. Yes. If we force them toward this area, their formation will break. Amiya looked at the map. Then we can surround them. Izuku nodded. Exactly. One operator looked impressed. He's already analyzing enemy formations. Amiya turned toward the doctor. Let's use his plan. The doctor nodded. Orders were transmitted. Rhodes Island changed direction. The enemy convoy entered the designated area. Izuku stood on the outer platform. Green lightning flickered around his body. Amiya stood beside him. Ready. Izuku nodded. Ready. The first enemy vehicle appeared. Izuku launched himself. Whoom. He landed directly on the roof. The driver panicked. What is that? Blackwhip wrapped around the vehicle. Izuku pulled. The vehicle swerved. Boom. It crashed into another. The formation collapsed. Now, Amiya raised her staff. Art's energy surged forward. The Rhodes Island operators attacked. The battle lasted only a few minutes. Izuku moved between the vehicles, disabling weapons and pulling enemies from their positions. He avoided lethal attacks whenever possible. Blackwhip restrained one group. Another group was knocked down by a controlled shockwave. Eventually, the remaining soldiers surrendered. Izuku landed beside Amiya. Everyone's down. Amiya nodded. No unnecessary casualties. She smiled. Good work. Izuku returned the smile. You too. Later that night, Izuku returned to the observation room. Amiya was already there. She looked tired. You did well today. Izuku sat beside her. So did you. Amiya looked at him. You really think so? Yes. Even though I hesitated. Everyone hesitates. Amiya smiled. You're getting better at giving advice. Izuku laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. They looked through the window. The landship continued moving through the darkness. Amiya rested her head against the seat. Izuku. Yeah, I'm glad we found you. Izuku looked at her. Me too. The system quietly appeared in front of Izuku. Relationship established. Amiability with Amiya. Hi. Special trait unlocked. Trusted ally. Izuku blinked. He quickly closed the interface before Amiya noticed. Something wrong. No. He smiled. Nothing. Outside, the stars continued shining above Terra. For the first time since arriving in this unfamiliar world, Izuku no longer felt like he was simply trying to find a way home. He had found people who needed him. And he had found someone who understood what it meant to carry the responsibility of protecting others. Amiya looked toward him. Tomorrow, we have another mission. Izuku nodded. Then I'll be ready. Green lightning briefly flickered across his fingers. Whatever Terra throws at us, we'll handle it together. Chernobog was burning. Black smoke covered the sky as explosions echoed between the enormous buildings. Boom. Another section of the city collapsed. Crack. Concrete and steel fell into the streets. Rhodes Island had entered the city under the cover of the chaos. Izuku stood on the edge of a damaged building, looking across the streets. His eyes moved constantly. Danger sense was active. There are people trapped inside that building. Amiya stood beside him. How many? Izuku closed his eyes. At least 12. The doctor looked toward the damaged structure. Can we reach them? Izuku smiled. I can. Before anyone could stop him, he jumped. Whoom. Green lightning flashed around his body. Float activated. Blackwhip shot toward the building. Izuku swung through the smoke and landed on the side of the structure. Boom. The building shook beneath him. He immediately activated danger sense again. 3 floors below, Blackwhip pierced through a broken window. Izuku pulled himself inside. Hello. A weak voice answered. Help. Izuku rushed toward it. A family was trapped beneath fallen concrete. Izuku crouched. Don't worry. I'll get you out. He placed both hands beneath the rubble. Green lightning spread across his arms. One for all. He slowly lifted. The concrete rose. The trapped civilians crawled free. Keep moving. Izuku carried one injured man over his shoulder while Blackwhip supported another. He brought them outside. A Rhodes Island medic immediately took them. Amiya approached. Are there more? Izuku nodded. Yes. He turned toward the building. I'm going back. Amiya grabbed his shoulder. Be careful. Izuku smiled. Always. He disappeared again. The situation across Chernobog was getting worse. Reunion forces had occupied several streets. Their objective was unclear, but they were heavily armed. Izuku landed on a rooftop. He looked across the city. Danger sense suddenly screamed. There. A projectile flew toward him. Whoosh. Izuku moved aside. Boom. The projectile destroyed the wall behind him. Izuku looked toward the attacker. Several Reunion soldiers stood on another building. Found you. Izuku jumped. Whoom. He crossed the gap. One soldier fired. Izuku caught the weapon with Blackwhip. Rip. The rifle was pulled from his hands. Izuku landed. Give up. The soldier attacked with a knife. Izuku blocked the strike. Don't. The soldier swung again. Izuku caught his wrist. I said stop. He pushed the soldier backward. Boom. The man crashed into the floor. The others attacked simultaneously. Izuku activated full cowling. Green lightning exploded around him. He moved through them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Within seconds, every soldier was restrained. Izuku looked around. Why are you attacking civilians? None answered. One Reunion member finally shouted. You don't understand. Izuku crouched beside him. Then explain. The soldier glared. You people come here pretending to save us. Izuku frowned. We're trying to save civilians. Rhodes Island. The man struggled against Blackwhip. You don't know what it's like. Izuku became silent. He looked toward the streets below. Infected civilians were running through the smoke. Some were carrying children. Others were being chased. Izuku released the tension in his Blackwhip slightly. You're right. The Reunion soldier looked surprised. I don't know what you've been through. Izuku stood. But attacking civilians isn't going to fix it. He turned away. Stay here. Rhodes Island will deal with you. A massive explosion shook the city. Boom. Izuku immediately turned. Amiya's voice came through the communicator. Izuku, I'm listening. We've found a large group of civilians. Where? Central District. Izuku looked toward the smoke. I'm coming. He jumped. Whoom. The Central District was almost completely destroyed. A large building was collapsing. Crack. Izuku's eyes widened. Everyone move. He accelerated. FA Jin activated. Gear shift followed. His body became a green blur. He reached the collapsing structure. Blackwhip. Dozens of black tendrils erupted from his arms. They wrapped around the building. Izuku pulled. NGH. The entire structure continued falling. Green lightning exploded around his body. Come on. His muscles strained. The building stopped. The civilians beneath it stared upward. Izuku was holding the entire structure with Blackwhip. Amiya arrived. Izuku, get them out. Amiya nodded. Everyone, move. Rhodes Island operators rushed into the area. One by one, civilians were evacuated. Izuku continued holding the building. His arms trembled. Almost. Another support beam broke. Crack. Izuku gritted his teeth. Not yet. One for all surged through his body. Whoom. The Blackwhip tightened. The building shifted back into position. The final civilian escaped. Amiya shouted. They're clear. Izuku immediately released the building. He jumped away. Boom. The structure collapsed completely. Dust covered the street. Izuku landed heavily. Everyone okay? Amiya nodded. Yes. Izuku exhaled. Good. Then a strange voice echoed across the city. Rhodes Island. Izuku looked up. A figure stood on a distant rooftop. Their presence immediately triggered danger sense. Amiya's expression changed. That's Crown Slayer. Izuku looked at her. Who? One of Reunion's elites. The figure disappeared. Izuku's eyes narrowed. Danger sense continued ringing. She's still nearby. Amiya raised her staff. How can you tell? My ability. Izuku turned. She's moving. Blackwhip shot toward an alley. Nothing. Izuku frowned. She's using concealment. Amiya looked around. Crown Slayer can manipulate shadows and reposition herself. Izuku nodded. Then she won't be able to hide from me. He closed his eyes. Danger sense. Search. One for all. His senses expanded. There. A heartbeat. Izuku opened his eyes. Behind us. Amiya turned. Crown Slayer appeared. What? She tried to strike. Izuku caught her wrist. Got you. Crown Slayer's eyes widened. She disappeared. Izuku immediately spun around. There. Blackwhip shot forward. It caught her ankle. Not this time. Izuku pulled. Crown Slayer crashed onto the ground. Boom. She immediately tried to teleport again. Izuku wrapped her entire body with Blackwhip. Stop moving. Crown Slayer struggled. Release me. Not until you stop attacking. She glared at him. Who are you? Izuku looked at her. Izuku Midoriya. You're not from Rhodes Island. Not originally. Crown Slayer narrowed her eyes. Then why are you protecting them? Izuku answered immediately. Because they're trying to save people. Crown Slayer remained silent. Izuku loosened Blackwhip slightly. You don't have to keep fighting. You don't understand. Maybe not. Izuku looked toward the burning city. But I know this isn't helping anyone. Crown Slayer stared at him. Then she suddenly vanished. Izuku's danger sense reacted. Wait. Too late. She escaped into the smoke. Amiya approached. You could have stopped her. I know. Why didn't you? Izuku looked toward the civilians. Because there are more important things to protect. Amiya smiled faintly. That's very like you. Night fell over Chernobog. The fighting continued in several districts, but Rhodes Island had successfully evacuated hundreds of civilians. Izuku sat on the roof of a damaged building. His costume was covered in dust. Amiya sat beside him. You're exhausted. Izuku nodded. A little. You held up an entire building. Yeah. Amiya looked at him. You could have been killed. Izuku smiled. But I wasn't. She sighed. You really don't know when to stop. Izuku laughed. Probably not. Below them, Rhodes Island operators continued helping civilians. Izuku watched silently. Then he looked toward the distant skyline. The city was still burning. Reunion was still active. And somewhere within Chernobog, something far more dangerous was waiting. His danger sense gave a faint warning. Izuku slowly stood. Amiya. Yes. We're not finished. Amiya looked toward the city. No. Izuku clenched his fist. Green lightning flickered. Then let's keep going. The night over Chernobog was far from quiet. Distant explosions continued to shake the ruined city. Boom. Smoke drifted between the buildings while scattered fires illuminated the streets. Izuku stood on a damaged rooftop with his eyes closed. Danger sense remained active. Amiya stood several meters behind him. Can you find them? Izuku opened his eyes. Yes. How many? More than before. Amiya looked toward the streets. Reunion. Izuku nodded. They're moving toward the evacuation route. Amiya's expression tightened. Then we have to stop them. Izuku looked at the civilians being escorted through the streets below. I'll go first. Amiya grabbed his shoulder. Don't rush ahead alone. Izuku smiled. I won't. Then he jumped. Whoom. Green lightning flashed across the darkness. Izuku landed in the middle of the street. Several reunion soldiers immediately turned toward him. It's him. The green one. Don't let him through. They raised their weapons. Bang. Bang. Izuku activated gear shift. The projectiles seemed to freeze in the air. He moved between them. 1, 2, 3. He appeared behind the first soldier and struck the weapon from his hand. The second swung a metal pipe. Izuku ducked. Blackwhip wrapped around the attacker's ankle. Down. He pulled. Boom. The soldier hit the pavement. Another enemy charged from the side. Izuku blocked the punch. You don't need to do this. The man snarled. You know nothing about us. Then stop attacking civilians and tell me. The soldier hesitated. Another voice shouted. Arts. A wave of blue energy suddenly tore through the street. Whoom. Izuku's danger sense screamed. He jumped. The blast passed beneath him and destroyed several vehicles. Boom. Izuku landed on a wall. He looked toward the source. A reunion caster stood at the end of the street. Their hands glowed with Art's energy. Interesting. Izuku narrowed his eyes. So that's Art's. The caster fired again. Whom? Izuku moved. The blast followed. Izuku accelerated. Gear shift increased his speed. He crossed the street before the caster could react. Blackwhip wrapped around the caster's arm. Got you. The caster tried to activate Arts again. Izuku pulled the arm downward. Don't. The caster glared. Monster. Izuku froze for half a second. Then he released the arm. I'm not your enemy. The caster looked confused. Izuku pointed toward the evacuation route. Those people are. More enemies appeared. Izuku counted them. 20. Then 30. Then more. Danger sense continued ringing. This is getting annoying. He lowered his stance. Green lightning exploded around his body. Full cowling. 45%. Gear shift. Fa Jin. The three abilities combined. Whoom. Izuku vanished. To the soldiers, he became nothing more than a green streak. One weapon disappeared. Then another. Then another. Blackwhip pulled enemies away from the civilians. Izuku moved between them at impossible speed. Left. An operator shouted. Izuku turned. 3 soldiers were preparing to fire. He reached them before they could pull the triggers. Boom. All 3 weapons flew into the air. Izuku caught them with Blackwhip. Done. He threw them into an empty building. Crack. The weapons broke against the wall. Another enemy attacked with a sword. Izuku caught the blade between 2 fingers. The soldier stared. What? Izuku twisted his wrist. The sword dropped. You don't want to fight me. He struck the soldier's chest with a controlled punch. Boom. The man flew backward and landed safely on a pile of rubble. Then something changed. The air became heavy. Izuku's danger sense suddenly became far stronger. His entire body stiffened. Something's coming. Amiya arrived behind him. What is it? Izuku looked toward the darkness. Someone stronger. A massive figure stepped through the smoke. His body was covered in armor. His presence alone made the surrounding soldiers move aside. Izuku stared. The figure carried an enormous weapon. Amiya's expression became serious. That's not an ordinary reunion soldier. The figure charged. Boom. The ground shattered beneath his feet. Izuku crossed his arms. The attack struck. Boom. The shockwave sent Izuku sliding backward. His boots carved lines through the pavement. Izuku looked at his arms. That's strong. The armored warrior attacked again. Izuku dodged. The weapon smashed into the ground. Boom. The street cracked. Izuku jumped over the attack. Blackwhip. The tendrils wrapped around the weapon. Izuku pulled. The warrior didn't move. Seriously. The warrior grabbed Blackwhip. Izuku's eyes widened. He was pulled forward. Whoa. The warrior swung him. Izuku released Blackwhip at the last second. He landed on a wall. Okay. Izuku smiled. Let's try this differently. Green lightning intensified. Fa Jin charged through his legs. Gear shift activated. He launched himself forward. Whoom. His fist struck the warrior's armor. Boom. The impact sent the warrior flying across the street. He crashed through a wall. Crack. Izuku landed. Are you okay? The warrior stood again. Izuku's smile disappeared. You're tough. The warrior raised his weapon. You are the anomaly. Izuku blinked. What? The outsider. The warrior charged again. Izuku activated danger sense. He saw the attack before it happened. He moved aside. The weapon missed. Izuku grabbed the warrior's arm. Blackwhip wrapped around his body. You're not going anywhere. The warrior struggled. Izuku tightened the tendrils. Give up. The warrior refused. Izuku sighed. Fine. He increased one for all to 50%. Green lightning erupted. Smash. His controlled punch struck the ground beside the warrior. Boom. The shockwave threw the armored man into the air. He landed unconscious. Izuku lowered his fist. That should do it. Amiya approached. Are you injured? Izuku shook his head. No. She looked at the destroyed street. You held back. Of course. Why? Izuku looked at the unconscious soldiers. Because they're people. Amiya nodded. Then she looked toward the horizon. More smoke was rising. There are still enemies ahead. Izuku sighed. Of course there are. He looked at the evacuation route. The civilians were safe for the moment. How many more? Amiya checked her communicator. Unknown. Izuku cracked his fingers. Then let's find out. They continued through Chernobog. Izuku moved faster than any ordinary operator could follow. When reunion soldiers appeared, he disabled them. When civilians were trapped, he rescued them. When buildings began collapsing, Blackwhip held them long enough for people to escape. And every time someone used arts against him, danger sense warned him before the attack arrived. Eventually, an operator contacted Amiya. The evacuation route is secure. Amiya smiled. Good. Izuku stopped. Then we've bought them time. He looked toward the distant city. His expression changed. There was something else. Something he couldn't explain. His danger sense was reacting to a distant presence. Not immediately hostile, but incredibly powerful. Izuku looked toward the smoke-filled skyline. Amiya. Yes. There's someone else here. Amiya became serious. Who? I don't know. Green lightning flickered around Izuku's fingers. But whatever it is, he looked toward the heart of Chernobog. It's strong. Far away, a shadow moved through the burning city. And somewhere beyond the ruined streets, a woman watched the destruction in silence. The Battle of Chernobog was only beginning. The streets of Chernobog had become quieter. The explosions were now farther away, but smoke still covered the skyline. Izuku walked beside Amiya through a narrow street filled with broken vehicles and collapsed walls. His eyes moved constantly. Something isn't right. Amiya looked at him. What do you sense? Someone is following us. Amiya immediately became alert. Reunion. Probably. Izuku stopped. Danger sense pulsed inside his head. He turned toward an empty alley. Nothing. She's hiding. Amiya raised her staff. Crown Slayer. Izuku nodded. You know her. She's one of Reunion's elite members. The one from earlier. Yes. Izuku stared at the alley. Then she's nearby. A faint sound came from behind them. Tap. Izuku spun around. Nothing. Then another sound. Tap. This time from the rooftop. Izuku looked upward. A dark figure stood on the edge of the building. Red eyes watched them through the smoke. Crown Slayer. You again. Crown Slayer smiled. You're surprisingly difficult to surprise. Izuku stepped forward. You could have attacked us already. Perhaps. She disappeared. Whoosh. Izuku's danger sense screamed. Behind. Amiya turned. Crown Slayer appeared behind her. Izuku moved instantly. Blackwhip shot forward. It wrapped around Crown Slayer's waist. Got you. Crown Slayer vanished. The Blackwhip caught nothing. Izuku's eyes widened. She teleported. Crown Slayer appeared above him. Her blade came down. Izuku raised his arm. Clang. The weapon struck his bracer. Crown Slayer immediately disappeared again. Izuku landed. That's annoying. Amiya looked around. Her ability allows her to teleport short distances. Then I'll track her. Izuku closed his eyes. Danger sense. Search. One for all. His senses expanded. Every movement around him became clearer. Wind. Dust. Falling debris. Amiya's heartbeat. The distant footsteps of operators. Then, there. Izuku opened his eyes. 3 meters behind me. He turned. His fist stopped inches from Crown Slayer's face. She had barely managed to teleport away. How? Izuku smiled. You can't hide from me. Crown Slayer appeared on a rooftop. Izuku immediately jumped. Whoom. He landed beside her. She swung her blade. Izuku stepped aside. Blackwhip wrapped around her wrist. Stop running. She disappeared. The Blackwhip snapped back. Izuku looked around. Danger sense. There. He launched himself downward. Crown Slayer appeared below him. Izuku grabbed her before she could teleport again. Got you. He held her wrist. Crown Slayer struggled. Release me. Stop attacking first. She kicked him. Izuku caught her leg. She vanished. Izuku grabbed empty air. She's fast. Amiya arrived below. Izuku. I'm fine. Crown Slayer appeared behind Amiya. Izuku's danger sense screamed. Amiya. Move. Crown Slayer attacked. Amiya raised her staff. A wave of art's energy struck the ground. Boom. Crown Slayer jumped backward. Izuku landed between them. You're not touching her. Crown Slayer narrowed her eyes. Why? Izuku frowned. Because she's my friend. Crown Slayer stared at him. Then she laughed quietly. Friend. Yes. You've known her for days. Izuku shrugged. Doesn't matter. Crown Slayer's expression changed. You don't understand this world. Izuku looked at her. Probably not. Then stop interfering. No. Crown Slayer's eyes narrowed. Why? Izuku pointed toward the burning city. Because people are getting hurt. She remained silent. Izuku continued. Whatever your reasons are, you're hurting civilians. Those civilians have already suffered. Then why make them suffer more? Crown Slayer clenched her fist. You don't know what Reunion is fighting for. Then tell me. She froze. Izuku lowered his guard slightly. I'm listening. Crown Slayer stared at him. For a moment, she looked like she might actually answer. Then an explosion sounded in the distance. Boom. Both of them looked toward the city. Crown Slayer's expression changed. They're here. Amiya frowned. Who? Crown Slayer didn't answer. She disappeared. Izuku immediately turned toward the explosion. Something's wrong. Amiya nodded. We need to move. They reached the next district. The streets were filled with Reunion soldiers. But they weren't attacking Rhodes Island. They were running. Izuku looked confused. Why are they retreating? Amiya didn't know. Then the ground shook. Boom. A massive wave of flames erupted in the distance. Izuku's danger sense went wild. That's not normal arts. Amiya looked toward the flames. Talulah. Izuku stared. Who? Amiya's expression became grim. The leader of Reunion. Another wave of flames spread through the street. Whoom. Izuku immediately raised Blackwhip. The tendrils spread across the road and pulled several civilians out of the flames. Move. Amiya helped evacuate them. Izuku looked toward the burning horizon. A figure walked through the fire. Her presence was overwhelming. Izuku clenched his fists. That's her. Amiya nodded. Yes. The woman continued walking. Flames surrounded her body. Izuku's danger sense screamed louder than ever. She's dangerous. Amiya looked at him. Don't engage. Izuku stared at Talulah. She was surrounded by flames, yet walked calmly through the destruction. Then she stopped. Her eyes moved toward Izuku. The two stared at each other from across the ruined street. Talulah's expression changed. You. Izuku blinked. Me. You're not from Terra. Izuku's eyes widened. How do you know? Talulah didn't answer. Flames began gathering around her hands. Amiya stepped forward. Izuku, get the civilians out. Izuku nodded. Right. He turned. Then Talulah attacked. Whoom. A wave of fire raced toward them. Izuku immediately moved. Blackwhip spread across the street. He grabbed the civilians and pulled them behind a concrete barrier. The flames crashed into the road. Boom. Izuku jumped through the smoke. Amiya, I'm fine. Talulah walked forward. You possess strange power. Izuku raised his fists. I don't want to fight you. Then move. I can't. Talulah's eyes narrowed. Why? Izuku looked at the civilians behind him. Because they're behind me. Green lightning erupted around his body. Full cowling. Talulah raised one hand. A wall of fire appeared. Izuku rushed forward. Whoom. He punched the flames. Boom. The shockwave split the fire apart. Talulah's eyes widened. Izuku emerged through the opening. Detroit smash. His fist stopped just before her. He deliberately redirected the force upward. Boom. The resulting shockwave blasted the flames into the sky. Talulah stepped backward. Izuku landed. I don't want to hurt you. Talulah stared at him. You could have struck me. Yes. Why didn't you? Izuku lowered his fists. Because I don't think you're the real enemy. Talulah's expression hardened. You know nothing about me. You're right. Izuku nodded. But I've met people who were hurting before. Talulah's flames intensified. Don't pretend you understand. I'm not. Izuku looked directly at her. I'm saying you can stop. Talulah remained silent. Then her flames suddenly erupted. Whoom. Izuku raised Blackwhip. Amiya, get back. The street was swallowed by fire. Izuku stood in front of the civilians. Blackwhip spread around them like a massive shield. The flames crashed into it. Boom. Izuku gritted his teeth. NGH. The heat was intense. His costume began smoking. This is hot. He increased one for all. Green lightning exploded. The Blackwhip tightened. Everyone stay behind me. The fire finally weakened. When the flames disappeared, Talulah was gone. Izuku looked around. She escaped. Amiya approached. You protected everyone. Izuku looked at his smoking costume. Barely. Amiya smiled. You still did it. Izuku looked toward the distant flames. His expression became serious. Amiya. Yes. Whoever she is. He clenched his fist. She's carrying something dangerous. Amiya nodded. We'll learn what it is. Far away, Crown Slayer watched from the rooftop. She had seen everything. The strange outsider had stood against Talulah's flames. And instead of attacking her with everything he had protected the civilians first. Crown Slayer lowered her weapon. For the first time, she wasn't sure whether Izuku Midoriya was an enemy. And that uncertainty would soon become important. Lungmen appeared on the horizon just after sunrise. The massive city stretched across the distance, surrounded by towering walls and enormous structures built for both defense and transportation. Izuku stood near the front of the Rhodes Island landship, staring at the city. That's Lungmen. Amiya nodded. Yes. Izuku opened his notebook. It's much bigger than I expected. Lungmen is one of Terra's largest cities. Izuku looked toward the walls. And we're here to cooperate with the Lungmen Guard Department. That's right. Izuku nodded. Then I should probably behave. Amiya smiled. Please do. Izuku scratched his cheek. I don't usually cause trouble. Amiya gave him a doubtful look. You fought an entire convoy. They attacked first. And you destroyed half of their vehicles. Only the weapons. Amiya laughed. That's still something. Before Izuku could respond, the landship slowed. Several armed vehicles approached. Lungmen guards surrounded the entrance. Izuku immediately noticed their uniforms. Those are the Lungmen Guard Department. Yes. Amiya nodded. Stay calm. I am calm. Izuku straightened his jacket. Very calm. The landship stopped. The doors opened. Several officers entered. At the front stood a woman with dark hair and dragon-like horns. She carried a large sword. Izuku immediately recognized the difference in her posture. She wasn't just another officer. She was a veteran fighter. The woman looked toward Amiya. Amiya. Heen. The two exchanged brief nods. Heen's eyes then moved toward Izuku. She stared at him. Izuku stared back. Neither spoke. Finally, Heen frowned. Who is he? Amiya answered. His name is Izuku Midoriya. The outsider. Yes. Heen looked him up and down. He's the one who fought in Chernobog. Amiya nodded. He helped with the evacuation. Heen looked at Izuku. And you're an operator? Yes. What class? Guard. Arts. Izuku shook his head. I don't use arts. Heen's expression became suspicious. Then what do you use? Izuku raised one hand. Green lightning flickered around his fingers. One for all. Heen narrowed her eyes. That's not an answer. It's the name of my ability. What does it do? Izuku thought for a moment. Makes me stronger. Heen stared at him. That's all. There's more. How much more? Izuku hesitated. Quite a lot. Heen's eyes narrowed further. Amiya stepped between them. Heen. Izuku is here to assist Rhodes Island. I understand. Heen looked at Izuku again. But if he's going to operate inside Lungmen, I need to know what he's capable of. Izuku nodded. That's fair. Heen turned toward the exit. Then come with me. The training grounds of Lungmen were surrounded by tall concrete walls. Several Lungmen guards stood around the area. Izuku entered the center. Heen stood opposite him. She drew her sword. The blade gleamed under the morning sunlight. Izuku's eyes widened slightly. That's a nice sword. Heen didn't answer. She raised it. Defend yourself. Izuku immediately activated full cowling. Green lightning spread across his body. Amiya watched from outside the training area. The doctor stood beside her. Heen moved first. Whoosh. She crossed the distance in an instant. Her sword came down. Izuku raised his arm. Clang. The blade struck his reinforced forearm. The impact pushed him backward. Izuku looked at the blade. That's strong. Heen attacked again. Izuku dodged. The sword sliced through the air beside his face. Whoosh. Izuku jumped backward. Blackwhip shot toward the ground. He swung around Heen. You're fast. Heen turned. Her blade followed him. Izuku twisted in midair. The sword passed beneath his feet. He landed several meters away. Heen charged again. Izuku activated Danger Sense. He saw the attack before it arrived. He stepped aside. Then Heen changed direction. Izuku's eyes widened. She changed her attack. The blade came toward his shoulder. Izuku caught it between two fingers. Clang. The entire training ground went silent. Heen's eyes widened. Izuku held the blade steady. You almost got me. Heen pushed harder. Izuku's feet slid backward. Green lightning intensified around his arm. Okay. He tightened his grip. My turn. Izuku pushed the sword away. Boom. The force sent Heen several meters backward. She landed perfectly. Izuku didn't pursue. Heen stared at him. You could have attacked. Yes. Why didn't you? Because this is a test. Hine narrowed her eyes. Then she raised her sword again. Again. Izuku sighed. Okay. The second exchange was faster. Hine moved with precise swordsmanship. Izuku relied on danger sense, enhanced reflexes, and searched to follow her movements. Clang, clang, clang. Their attacks collided repeatedly. Izuku never struck her directly. Instead, he avoided the blade and redirected each attack. Hine suddenly changed her stance. The sword began glowing with art's energy. Amiya's expression changed. Hine, I know. Izuku looked at the glowing blade. That's art's. Hine nodded. Kai Shao. The energy surrounding the sword intensified. Izuku's danger sense exploded. That's going to hurt. Hine vanished. Whoom. Izuku barely moved aside. The sword sliced through the concrete behind him. Boom. The wall split apart. The spectators gasped. Izuku stared at the damage. Okay. Green lightning surged around his body. I definitely don't want that hitting me. Hine charged again. Izuku stepped forward. This time, he didn't retreat. One for all flowed through his arm. He caught the blade. Clang. The impact created a powerful shockwave. Dust spread across the training ground. Izuku's shoes dug into the concrete. Hine pushed forward. Izuku held the sword between two fingers. You're really strong. Hine gritted her teeth. So are you. Izuku smiled. Thanks. He gently pushed the blade away. Hine's sword slipped from her hand. It landed several meters away. Silence. Izuku immediately raised his hands. Are we done? Hine looked at her empty hand. Then at Izuku. Yes. Izuku relaxed. Green lightning faded. The spectators began whispering. He stopped Kai Shao with two fingers. That's impossible. What kind of arts is that? Hine retrieved her sword. She looked at Izuku again. You weren't using your full strength. Izuku shook his head. No. Why? Because I didn't want to hurt you. Hine stared at him. You held back that much. Izuku nodded. I don't like using more power than necessary. Hine remained silent. Then she sheathed her sword. Good. Izuku blinked. Good. Yes. She looked toward Amiya. He's suitable for the operation. Amiya smiled. I thought you might say that. Later that afternoon, Izuku and the Rhodes Island team entered one of Lungmen's outer districts. The area had been damaged by recent fighting. Several infected civilians were being escorted to a temporary shelter. Izuku walked beside Amiya. There are a lot of infected here. Amiya nodded. Lungmen has accepted many refugees. Izuku looked at the civilians. Some avoided eye contact. Others stared at him. A small girl with animal ears looked at his green hair. Izuku smiled at her. She smiled back. Then a loud explosion shook the street. Boom. Everyone froze. Izuku immediately activated danger sense. Enemy. Amiya raised her staff. Where? Izuku pointed toward a building. 3 floors up. Hine drew her sword. Lungmen Guard Department. Move. Several officers rushed forward. Izuku launched himself. Whoom. Blackwhip wrapped around a rooftop railing. He swung upward. A reunion soldier appeared with a weapon. Izuku landed behind him. Put it down. The soldier turned. Izuku grabbed the weapon. Rip. It broke. The soldier attacked with arts. Izuku dodged. Not again. He moved behind the enemy. Blackwhip wrapped around both arms. You're done. Another explosion erupted below. Boom. Izuku looked down. Several reunion soldiers were attacking the shelter. Amiya. I see them. Hine rushed toward the attackers. Izuku followed. Green lightning flashed across the street. Whoom. He landed between the reunion soldiers and the civilians. Stop. One of the soldiers fired. Izuku raised his arm. The projectile bounced away. Boom. He stepped forward. I don't want to fight you. The soldier shouted. Then get out of our way. No. Izuku's expression hardened. There are civilians behind me. The soldiers charged. Izuku moved. Blackwhip restrained too. A controlled punch knocked another into an empty building. Boom. Another soldier attacked from behind. Heen intercepted him. Clang. Her blade struck his weapon. Leave this district. The soldier retreated. Izuku looked at Keen. Nice timing. Focus. Right. Together, they pushed the remaining attackers away. When the final soldier fled, the street became quiet. Izuku looked around. No civilians were seriously injured. He exhaled. Everyone's safe. Amiya nodded. Thanks to both of you. Heen looked at Izuku. You're not bad. Izuku smiled. That's high praise. Heen turned away. Don't get used to it. Izuku laughed. As evening approached, the team returned toward the Rhodes Island landship. Izuku walked beside Amiya. Heen is strong. Very. She reminds me of some of the heroes from my world. Amiya looked at him. You miss them. Izuku became quiet. Yeah. He looked toward the sky. But I'm starting to feel like I belong here too. Amiya smiled. You do. Behind them, Heen walked several meters away. She heard the conversation but said nothing. She looked toward Izuku. The strange outsider had no tail. No horns. No animal ears. He didn't use arts. Yet he had stopped her sword with 2 fingers. More importantly, he had repeatedly placed himself between danger and civilians. Heen looked forward again. Strange man. Izuku turned. Did you say something? No. Okay. They continued walking. Above Lungmen, the evening sky slowly darkened. And somewhere far beyond the city, a cold wind began to move across the land. The next enemy was already approaching. The wind changed before midnight. Izuku noticed it first. He stood on the observation deck of the Rhodes Island landship, staring toward the distant horizon. Cold air swept across the deck. His breath became visible. Izuku frowned. That's strange. Amiya stepped beside him. What is it? The temperature dropped too quickly. Danger sense suddenly pulsed. Izuku turned toward the darkness. Someone is coming. Amiya immediately contacted the others. All operators, prepare for an encounter. Within minutes, Rhodes Island's forward team had assembled. Heen stood near the edge of the deck, one hand resting on Kai Shao. Where? Izuku pointed toward the northern road. There. A white haze slowly spread across the wasteland. Snow began falling. Amiya stared. It's summer. Izuku caught a snowflake in his hand. It melted immediately. That's not normal. The snow became heavier. Wind howled across the landship. Whoom. The temperature continued dropping. Then a figure appeared within the blizzard. A woman with white hair walked through the snow. Her entire body was surrounded by freezing arts. Izuku's danger sense erupted. She's dangerous. Heen drew her sword. FrostNova. Amiya's expression became tense. Everyone, stay alert. FrostNova stopped several dozen meters away. She looked toward the landship. Then her eyes settled on Izuku. So you're the outsider. Izuku stepped forward. You know me. Everyone in Reunion has heard about you. FrostNova raised one hand. The ground immediately froze. Crack. Ice spread across the road. Izuku jumped backward. A massive ice spike erupted where he had been standing. Boom. Izuku landed on the landship's exterior. Okay. Green lightning flickered around him. She's definitely strong. FrostNova looked at him. You have no place in this war. Izuku shook his head. I'm not here for the war. Then leave. I can't. FrostNova's expression hardened. Why? Izuku pointed toward the landship. There are people here. FrostNova stared at him. And I protect them. Ice began forming around FrostNova. Then you'll die with them. The temperature dropped again. Amiya raised her staff. Izuku. I know. Izuku stepped forward. Get everyone behind me. FrostNova released her arts. Whoom. A gigantic wave of ice raced across the ground. Izuku activated full Cowling. He rushed forward. Whoosh! His feet barely touched the ground. He jumped over the first wave. Another ice spike appeared. Danger sense warned him. Izuku twisted sideways. The spike passed beside his body. Boom! He landed. Blackwhip shot forward. It wrapped around a large piece of ice. Izuku pulled. The ice shattered. Crack! FrostNova appeared behind him. Izuku turned. She swung her arm. A freezing blast struck his chest. Boom! Izuku flew backward. He crashed into the ground. Izuku! Amiya shouted. Izuku rolled across the snow and stopped. He looked down. Parts of his costume were frozen. That's cold. He stood. Green lightning spread across his body. Really cold. FrostNova looked surprised. You're still standing. Yeah. Izuku shook the ice from his arm. I've taken worse hits. FrostNova's eyes narrowed. Then take this. The entire battlefield froze. Ice pillars rose everywhere. Crack, crack, crack. Izuku jumped between them. Danger sense kept warning him. 1 spike. 2. 3. Dozens. He accelerated. Gear shift activated. Whoom. His body became a green blur. He avoided the ice while moving closer to FrostNova. She released another wave. Izuku punched it. Smash. Boom. The shockwave shattered the ice. Thousands of fragments flew through the air. Izuku immediately created Blackwhip around himself. The tendrils deflected the fragments. FrostNova watched him. You really are strange. Izuku landed. I get that a lot. She raised both hands. A huge wall of ice formed behind her. Then another. And another. The temperature became unbearable. Izuku's danger sense screamed. That's her strongest attack. Amiya shouted. Izuku! Retreat! Izuku looked behind him. The Rhodes Island landship was directly in the attack's path. He shook his head. I can't. He stepped forward. If she fires that, the landship will be destroyed. Amiya's eyes widened. Izuku. Green lightning exploded around his body. He activated Fa Jin. He stored energy through his movements. Then he ran. 1 step. 2. 3. His body accelerated. Whoom. Izuku reached the center of the battlefield. He slammed both feet into the frozen ground. Fa Jin. Energy burst from his legs. A wave of heat and pressure spread through the air. The surrounding snow began melting. FrostNova's eyes widened. Heat. Izuku continued. I can't create fire. He clenched his fists. But I can generate enough friction and air pressure to raise the temperature around me. He launched himself forward. Whoom. His movement created a powerful vortex. The air temperature rose sharply around his body. FrostNova's ice began melting. Water streamed across the ground. FrostNova stared at him. Why are you doing this? Izuku stopped several meters away. Because you're freezing yourself too. She froze. What? Izuku looked at her hands. Crystals had begun appearing across her skin. Her breathing was becoming heavier. Izuku's expression changed. You're infected. FrostNova said nothing. Izuku lowered his fists. Your body can't handle this. Don't pity me. I'm not. Then why? Izuku pointed toward her. Because you're hurting. FrostNova stared at him. You don't know me. No. Izuku nodded. But I can see it. She looked away. You know nothing about the infected. That's true. Izuku stepped closer. But I've met people who were treated like they weren't worth saving. FrostNova's eyes narrowed. And, I don't agree with that. The wind continued blowing. Snow fell between them. Izuku removed part of his damaged jacket. He held it toward her. FrostNova stared. What are you doing? You're freezing. I can control the cold. I know. Izuku smiled. But you're still freezing. She didn't take the jacket. Izuku placed it on a nearby piece of broken concrete instead. Take it if you want. FrostNova remained silent. Izuku sat down on the ground. Amiya stared at him from a distance. What is he doing? Heen answered. Probably something reckless. Izuku looked at FrostNova. You don't have to fight. FrostNova's eyes became colder. Reunion will continue. I know. Then we'll meet again. Izuku nodded. Probably. She turned away, then stopped. Why didn't you attack me? Izuku answered immediately. Because you didn't need another enemy. FrostNova looked back at him. For the first time, her expression softened. Only slightly. Then the snowstorm began fading. FrostNova walked into the darkness. Izuku watched until she disappeared. Amiya approached. You let her go. Izuku nodded. Yes. She could come back. I know. Heen crossed her arms. You could have defeated her. Izuku looked at her. Maybe. Then why didn't you? Izuku looked toward the melting snow. Because defeating her wouldn't solve anything. Heen didn't answer. Amiya understood. You wanted to talk. Yeah. Izuku looked at the distant darkness. She's angry. Amiya nodded. Very. But she's not fighting because she enjoys hurting people. Heen looked toward the horizon. You don't know that. No. Izuku smiled faintly. But I want to believe there's still something we can save. The snow continued melting around them. For the first time that night, the temperature began returning to normal. Izuku looked at his hands. Green lightning flickered weakly around his fingers. Then his danger sense gave one final pulse. Far away, FrostNova stopped walking. She looked down at the jacket she had finally picked up. For several seconds, she simply held it. Then she continued into the darkness. Behind her, the lights of Rhodes Island slowly disappeared. And for reasons she couldn't explain, the cold around her no longer felt quite as unbearable. The next morning, the snow had disappeared. Only a thin layer of ice remained on the roads outside Lungmen. Izuku stood on the observation deck of Rhodes Island, staring at the distant horizon. The encounter with FrostNova continued to occupy his thoughts. She had been strong, extremely strong, but something about her had bothered him more than the battle itself. She had looked exhausted, not physically, something deeper. Izuku opened his notebook. He wrote a new entry. FrostNova, infected, extremely powerful arts user, appears hostile toward Rhodes Island. He paused, then added, but willing to listen. You're still thinking about her. Izuku turned. Amiya stood behind him. Yeah, you shouldn't blame yourself. I don't. Izuku closed the notebook. I just think there's more to her story. Amiya nodded. There usually is. Before Izuku could answer, an alarm sounded. Beep, beep, beep. The entire deck suddenly became active. Operators rushed toward the command room. Izuku's danger sense activated. That's not a normal alarm. Amiya's expression changed. We've received an emergency transmission. From where? The outskirts of Lungmen. They hurried toward the command room. The main screen displayed a large group moving through the city. Amiya looked at the data. Reunion. Izuku frowned. Again. The doctor pointed toward a massive figure at the center of the formation. Izuku's eyes narrowed. Who's that? Amiya became silent. Patriot. The name spread through the command room. Even the experienced operators became tense. Izuku looked around. Who is he? Heen answered from behind him. One of Reunion's strongest commanders. How strong? Heen stared at the screen. Strong enough that most operators would never survive fighting him directly. Izuku looked at the enormous armored figure. Patriot carried a massive shield and weapon. His armor covered almost his entire body. Even through the screen, his presence felt heavy. Izuku's danger sense began pulsing. He's strong. Amiya nodded. Very. The doctor issued an order. Rhodes Island moved toward the conflict zone. The battlefield was a ruined industrial district. Smoke drifted between abandoned buildings. Patriot stood in the center of the street. Behind him were dozens of Reunion soldiers. Izuku stepped onto the battlefield with Amiya and Keen. Patriot looked toward them. His massive weapon rested against his shoulder. Rhodes Island. His voice was deep. Yes, Amiya answered. Patriot's eyes shifted toward Izuku. You. Izuku pointed toward himself. Me. The outsider. Izuku nodded. That's what everyone calls me. Patriot studied him. You possess great strength. Izuku smiled awkwardly. I've trained a lot. You protect the infected. Yes. Why? Izuku looked at the civilians behind Rhodes Island. Because they're people. Patriot remained silent. Then he raised his shield. Show me. Izuku's expression became serious. You want to fight? Yes. Amiya stepped forward. Patriot, we don't need to fight. Patriot shook his head. Your words have meaning. His eyes remained on Izuku. But strength determines whether those words survive. Izuku clenched his fists. Green lightning appeared around his body. Then I'll show you. Patriot moved. Boom. The ground cracked beneath his feet. Izuku barely avoided the first strike. The massive weapon smashed into the ground. Boom. The shockwave threw debris into the air. Izuku jumped backward. That was close. Patriot charged again. Izuku activated full Cowling. Whoom. He rushed forward. His fist struck Patriot's shield. Boom. The impact created a massive shockwave. Izuku's arm trembled. Patriot didn't move. Izuku's eyes widened. He didn't even step back. Patriot swung his weapon. Izuku ducked. The weapon passed over his head. Whoosh. Izuku jumped onto the shield. Blackwhip wrapped around Patriot's arm. Blackwhip. Izuku pulled with all his strength. Patriot remained still. Then he pulled back. Izuku was dragged forward. Whoa. Patriot slammed his shield into him. Boom. Izuku flew backward. He crashed through a wall. Crack. Amiya shouted. Izuku. Dust filled the street. Patriot waited. Then Izuku stepped out of the rubble. His costume was damaged. Blood ran down the side of his face. He wiped it away. Okay. Green lightning intensified. You're really strong. Patriot raised his weapon. And you. Izuku lowered his stance. I'm not done. One for all surged through Izuku's body. 45%. Then 50. Fa Jin began charging through his movements. Blackwhip wrapped around his arms. Gear shift activated. The air around him distorted. Whoom. Izuku disappeared. Patriot raised his shield. Boom. Izuku's fist slammed into it. The shield shook. Patriot slid backward. Only a few centimeters. But he had moved. Izuku's eyes widened. I moved him. Patriot looked at the mark on his shield. Again. Izuku smiled. Gladly. He attacked. Boom. Another punch. Then another. Then another. Patriot blocked each one. Clang. Boom. Clang. The battlefield shook with every impact. Izuku moved faster. Patriot remained steady. He swung his weapon. Izuku dodged. The weapon hit the ground. Boom. Izuku used Blackwhip to pull himself upward. Then he kicked Patriot's shield. Boom. Patriot finally staggered. Izuku landed. You're incredible. Patriot looked at him. You praise your opponent during battle. Izuku smiled. If they're strong, why wouldn't I? Patriot raised his weapon. Then prove your strength. He charged. Izuku charged as well. Both collided. Boom. The shockwave shattered windows across the street. Izuku's feet slid backward. Patriot's shield remained between them. Izuku pushed harder. Green lightning exploded around his body. One for all. Patriot pushed back. The ground beneath both fighters cracked. Crack. Amiya stared. Heen tightened her grip on Kai Shao. Neither fighter moved. Then Izuku suddenly smiled. I have an idea. Patriot remained silent. Izuku released Blackwhip. The tendrils wrapped around nearby structures. He pulled himself sideways. Patriot's eyes followed him. Izuku accelerated. Gear shift. Fa Jin. Full Cowling. He swung around the battlefield. Whoom. His speed increased with every rotation. Patriot raised his shield. Izuku appeared behind him. Detroit smash. Boom. The punch struck Patriot's back. The massive warrior was pushed forward. His feet carved deep lines into the pavement. He stopped. Slowly. He turned. Izuku stood several meters away. Both were breathing heavily. Patriot looked at him. You have learned. Izuku blinked. What? You do not fight strength with strength alone. Izuku smiled. That's what strategy is for. Patriot nodded. Good. Patriot suddenly lowered his weapon. Izuku stopped. What? Patriot looked toward the civilians behind Rhodes Island. You protect them even while fighting me. Izuku glanced back. The civilians were safe. Blackwhip had formed a protective barrier around the evacuation area during the battle. Patriot noticed. You divided your strength. Yes. Why? Izuku answered without hesitation. Because winning isn't enough. Patriot remained silent. Izuku continued. If I defeat you but let everyone behind me get hurt, then I failed. Patriot's eyes narrowed. You believe victory is meaningless without protection. Izuku nodded. Exactly. Patriot stared at him for several seconds. Then he lowered his shield. Interesting. Amiya stepped forward. Patriot. The veteran warrior looked toward her. Your people are suffering. I know. Then stop fighting. Patriot shook his head. We cannot. Izuku stepped forward. Why? Patriot looked at him. Because too many have already died. His voice became heavier. We have lost our homes. Our comrades. Our families. Izuku listened. And now you believe revenge will make it worth it. Patriot didn't answer. Izuku looked at the giant warrior. I don't think it will. Patriot's eyes narrowed. You are young. Yes. You have not witnessed decades of war. No. Izuku nodded. But I've seen what happens when people stop believing anyone can be saved. Patriot remained silent. Izuku extended his hand. I don't want to fight you. Patriot looked at the hand. Then why did you? Because you attacked us. A brief silence followed. Then Patriot lowered his shield completely. You are unusual. Izuku smiled. I hear that a lot. Patriot turned away. We will meet again. Izuku nodded. Probably. Patriot began walking away. Amiya watched him leave. He let us go. Izuku looked at Patriot's back. I think he was testing me. Heen approached. And, Izuku smiled. I think I passed. Heen gave him a skeptical look. You nearly got crushed. That's part of the test. Heen sighed. Idiot. Izuku laughed. Later that evening, Izuku sat beside Amiya on the landship. His injuries were already being treated. Amiya looked at him. You didn't defeat Patriot. Izuku nodded. I know. But you stopped the fight. Yes. Amiya smiled. That's still a victory. Izuku looked at his notebook. He wrote a new entry. Patriot. Extremely powerful. Experienced warrior. Protects his people. He paused. Then added. Not beyond saving. Izuku closed the notebook. Outside the window, the lights of Lungmen stretched across the darkness. Somewhere far away, Patriot continued walking with Reunion. The old warrior had met countless fighters. Many had been strong. Many had been ruthless. But none had fought him while worrying more about protecting others than defeating him. For the first time in years, Patriot wondered whether strength could be used for something other than war. The battlefield was quiet the next morning. The ruins of the industrial district were covered in dust and fragments of broken concrete. Izuku stood near the edge of the street, looking toward the horizon. Something felt wrong. His danger sense had been active for several minutes. Amiya noticed his expression. What is it? Izuku looked toward the distance. Patriot is coming back. Heen immediately reached for Kai Shao. How do you know? Danger sense. Amiya looked toward the road. A massive figure appeared through the dust. Patriot. His armor was damaged from the previous battle, but he was still walking. Izuku stepped forward. He's alone. Patriot stopped several dozen meters away. His shield was in one hand. His weapon was in the other. Izuku Midoriya. Izuku nodded. Patriot. The old warrior looked at him. Our previous battle was incomplete. Izuku frowned. You want to fight again? Yes. Amiya stepped forward. There has to be another way. Patriot shook his head. This is not about hatred. He looked directly at Izuku. I need to know whether your strength can withstand the weight you claim to carry. Izuku clenched his fists. Green lightning appeared around his body. Then I'll show you. Patriot moved first. Boom. The ground shattered beneath his feet. Izuku activated full cowling. Whoom. Both fighters collided in the center of the street. Patriot's weapon struck Izuku's arm. Clang. Izuku blocked it. The force pushed him several meters backward. Izuku immediately countered. Smash. Boom. His fist struck Patriot's shield. The massive warrior barely moved. Patriot swung again. Izuku ducked. The weapon destroyed a section of concrete behind him. Crack. Izuku jumped onto the shield. Blackwhip shot from his arm. It wrapped around Patriot's weapon. Blackwhip. Izuku pulled. Patriot pulled back. The two struggled. Then Patriot suddenly released the weapon. Izuku stumbled backward. Patriot grabbed Blackwhip. He pulled Izuku toward him. Come. Izuku's eyes widened. Patriot swung his shield. Boom. Izuku flew through a wall. Crack. He landed in the rubble. NGH. Amiya took a step forward. Izuku. He pushed himself up. I'm okay. Blood dripped from his forehead. Patriot waited. Izuku looked at him. You really don't hold back. Neither should you. Izuku smiled. All right. Green lightning intensified. Then I'll stop holding back. One for all surged through his entire body. FA Jin charged. Gear shift activated. Danger sense screamed. Izuku disappeared. Whoom. Patriot raised his shield. Boom. A punch struck the shield. Another. Then another. Izuku moved too quickly to follow. Blackwhip pulled him from one angle to another. Patriot blocked each attack. Clang. Boom. Clang. The old warrior's shield was battered by continuous impacts. Izuku suddenly appeared above him. Detroit smash. Boom. Patriot was driven into the ground. The street collapsed beneath him. Dust filled the area. Izuku landed. Are you okay? Patriot rose from the crater. His armor was cracked, but he remained standing. Izuku stared. You're unbelievable. Patriot raised his shield. Again. Izuku rushed forward. This time, Patriot attacked with everything he had. His weapon swung downward. Izuku dodged. The ground exploded. Boom. Patriot thrust forward. Izuku blocked. The force sent him sliding backward. He activated Blackwhip. The tendrils wrapped around Patriot's shield. Izuku pulled with all his strength. Patriot resisted. Then Izuku changed direction. He used gear shift. His body accelerated sideways. He wrapped Blackwhip around a nearby building. Whoom. Izuku swung around Patriot. Got you. He pulled the warrior off balance. Patriot fell to one knee. Izuku landed behind him. It's over. Patriot slowly stood. No. He raised his shield again. Not yet. Izuku's expression became serious. You're injured. So are you. I can keep going. So can I. They charged. Boom. Their attacks collided. A massive shockwave swept through the ruined district. Windows shattered. Dust rose into the sky. Amiya shielded her face. When the dust cleared, Izuku and Patriot were still standing. Both were breathing heavily. Patriot's armor had several cracks. Izuku's costume was torn across the chest. Neither moved. Then Patriot lowered his weapon. Izuku did the same. Why did you stop? Patriot looked at him. Because I have seen enough. Izuku blinked. Enough. Patriot nodded. Your strength is immense. He looked at the ruined battlefield. But that is not what impressed me. Izuku remained silent. Patriot continued. You could have killed me. Izuku shook his head. I didn't want to. You had several opportunities. Yes. Yet you restrained every strike. Izuku looked down at his fist. Because you're still a person. Patriot stared at him. Even after I attacked you. Yes. Even after I attempted to crush you. Yes. Patriot's grip tightened around his shield. Why? Izuku answered immediately. Because if I stop seeing people as people just because they're my enemies, then I become part of the problem. Patriot was silent. For several seconds, the veteran warrior simply looked at him. Then he lowered his shield. I have fought for many years. His voice was quieter. I have watched kingdoms rise and fall. He looked toward the ruined city. I have seen warriors fight for their homes. I have seen soldiers die for causes they barely understood. His gaze returned to Izuku. But I have rarely seen someone fight while trying so hard not to destroy the person standing before him. Izuku smiled faintly. That's what heroes are supposed to do. Patriot stared. Heroes. Izuku nodded. It's what we call people who protect others in my world. Patriot looked toward the sky. Then perhaps your world has something Terra has forgotten. Izuku's expression softened. Maybe. Patriot suddenly coughed. His body staggered. Izuku immediately moved forward. Patriot. The warrior dropped to one knee. Amiya and Keen rushed over. Patriot raised one hand. Stay back. Izuku stopped. You're badly injured. I know. Patriot looked down at his armor. Blood had begun leaking beneath the damaged plates. Izuku clenched his fists. Let us treat you. Patriot shook his head. My body has reached its limit. That doesn't mean we can't help. I know my own body. Izuku stepped closer. Then at least let me try. Patriot looked at him. For the first time, his expression softened. You truly refuse to abandon anyone. Izuku nodded. Yes. Patriot gave a faint smile. Good. He lowered himself against a broken wall. Izuku knelt beside him. The doctors from Rhodes Island rushed forward. They began treating his wounds. But Patriot's condition continued worsening. Amiya looked at the medical readings. Her expression became grim. We can't stabilize him. Izuku stared at the screen. There has to be something. Calcit, who had arrived with the medical team, shook her head. His injuries are too severe. Izuku looked at Patriot. I'm sorry. Patriot remained calm. Do not apologize. He looked at Izuku. You gave me a battle worth remembering. Izuku's eyes became wet. I didn't want this. Neither did I. Patriot looked toward the distant sky. But death has followed me for many years. He slowly turned back toward Izuku. Today, I met someone who reminded me why strength exists. Izuku swallowed. Patriot, protect them. Patriot looked toward Amiya. Protect the infected. Then toward Keen. Protect Lungmen. Finally, he looked at Izuku. And continue protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Izuku nodded. I promise. Patriot closed his eyes. His breathing became slower. The medical equipment began beeping. Beep, beep, beep. Then silence. Izuku lowered his head. Amiya stood beside him. Keen remained silent. Even the operators who had witnessed the battle said nothing. The old warrior was gone. Izuku slowly stood. He looked at the massive shield lying beside Patriot. His hand rested against its surface. You were strong. He paused. Really strong. The wind passed through the ruined district. Several hours later, Rhodes Island prepared to leave. Izuku stood alone near the edge of the city. Amiya approached. You haven't said much. Izuku looked toward the horizon. I'm thinking. About Patriot. Yeah. Amiya stood beside him. He respected you. Izuku nodded. I respected him too. He opened his notebook. On a new page, he wrote. Patriot, warrior, commander, enemy. He paused. Then added. Hero. Izuku closed the notebook. Amiya looked at him. Are you okay? Izuku nodded. I will be. He looked toward the sky. He wanted us to protect people. Amiya smiled faintly. Then we will. Izuku clenched his fist. Green lightning flickered around his fingers. We'll protect them. Far away, the remnants of Reunion continued moving through the land. Patriot was gone, but his final words remained with Izuku. And the next battle would be fought against enemies who would not surrender so easily. The funeral was quiet. There were no speeches, no grand ceremony, only the sound of wind moving across the open field outside Lungmen. Patriot's shield stood upright beside his body. His weapon rested against it. Izuku stood several meters away with his hands inside his pockets. Amiya stood beside him. Keen was there as well, along with several Rhodes Island operators. Nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, Amiya lowered her head. He was an enemy. Izuku nodded. Yes. But he protected his people. Yes. Keen looked toward the shield. And he fought until the end. Izuku stared at the massive weapon. He deserved better. Amiya looked at him. What do you mean? Izuku shook his head. Nothing. He turned away. We should focus on the people still alive. Amiya smiled faintly. That's what he would have wanted. Later that day, the Rhodes Island landship received an emergency transmission. The situation in Lungmen had changed. Reunion forces were retreating from several districts, but others were becoming more aggressive. Without Patriot's command, many groups had fractured. Some wanted to surrender, others wanted revenge. The doctor studied the map. There's a large group moving toward the eastern district. Amiya looked at the screen. There are civilians there. Izuku immediately stood. Then we have to go. Keen looked at him. You're going again? Yes. You barely rested. Izuku smiled. I can sleep later. Keen sighed. Of course. The eastern district was already in chaos. Reunion soldiers had barricaded the streets. Several buildings were burning. Civilians were trapped between the fighting. Izuku landed in the middle of the street. Boom. Dust spread around his feet. Everyone, move toward the evacuation zone. A frightened civilian stared at him. Who are you? Izuku pointed toward the Rhodes Island operators. They'll protect you. Just keep moving. A Reunion soldier fired an arts projectile. Whom? Izuku jumped. The projectile struck the ground. Boom. Izuku landed on a wall. Seriously. He launched himself forward. Whoom. Blackwhip wrapped around the weapon. Rip. The weapon flew away. Izuku landed in front of the soldier. Don't attack them. The soldier raised his fists. You killed Patriot. Izuku froze. What? You fought him? Yes. And now he's dead. The soldier charged. Izuku blocked the punch. I didn't kill him. The soldier swung again. Izuku dodged. He died from his injuries. Because of you. Izuku caught the man's wrist. No. The soldier struggled. Izuku looked directly at him. Patriot chose that fight. The soldier froze. He knew what could happen. Izuku released him. He told me to protect people. The soldier stared. Izuku pointed toward the civilians. If you really respected him, then stop attacking them. The soldier looked toward the evacuation route. His expression changed. For a moment, he didn't move. Then he lowered his fists. Another Reunion soldier shouted from behind him. Don't listen to him. The soldier turned. We're not fighting civilians. They're Rhodes Island. They're helping people. The argument spread. Izuku looked toward Amiya. She nodded. Keep moving. Izuku turned toward the remaining Reunion forces. Anyone who wants to fight me can come. Green lightning appeared around his body. But nobody touches those civilians. Several soldiers attacked at once. Whoom. Izuku vanished. The first attacker was knocked into an empty vehicle. Boom. The second was caught by Blackwhip. The third tried to use arts. Danger sense activated. Izuku moved before the spell was released. He appeared behind the caster. Too slow. A controlled strike sent the man into a pile of rubble. Boom. Another soldier rushed him with a blade. Izuku caught the weapon. Clang. He twisted it away. Blackwhip wrapped around the soldier. Stay down. The battlefield became a blur of green lightning and black tendrils. Izuku moved between enemies without killing any of them. Every attack was calculated. Every strike was controlled. When an opponent fell, he immediately moved to the next. Within minutes, the street was silent. The remaining reunion soldiers stared at him. None dared to attack. Izuku looked at them. Leave. One soldier stepped forward. Why? Because I'm not here to punish you. The soldier looked confused. Then what do you want? Izuku pointed toward the civilians. I want everyone to survive. The sky suddenly darkened. Izuku looked upward. His danger sense screamed. Everyone. Amiya looked up. What is it? Izuku pointed toward the clouds. Something's coming. The clouds began rotating. Wind tore through the streets. Whoom. Dust and debris flew into the air. The doctor immediately checked the instruments. Catastrophe. Amiya's expression changed. How soon? Very soon. Izuku stared at the sky. How soon? The doctor looked at the readings. Minutes. Izuku clenched his fists. Then we don't have time. The storm grew larger. Black clouds covered the entire horizon. Lightning flashed inside them. Boom. Izuku looked around. Civilians were still being evacuated. Rhodes Island operators were struggling to keep the streets clear. Izuku flew upward using float. He reached the top of a damaged building. The storm stretched for kilometers. That's huge. Amiya's voice came through the communicator. Izuku, get back down. I can't. Why? Look at the civilians. Amiya looked toward the streets. Thousands were still trying to escape. Izuku took a deep breath. If that storm reaches them, people will die. You can't stop a catastrophe by yourself. Izuku smiled. I know. He raised both fists. But I can make it smaller. Green lightning exploded around his body. One for all surged through every muscle. Jin began storing energy. Gear shift activated. Blackwhip spread across the building behind him. Izuku jumped. Whoom. He flew directly toward the storm. Amiya stared. Izuku. He continued rising. The wind became stronger. His costume flapped violently. Debris flew past him. Danger sense screamed constantly. Izuku pushed forward. Come on. He drew his fist backward. Green lightning concentrated around his arm. One for all. The storm roared. Roar. Izuku's eyes narrowed. United States of Smash. He punched upward. Boom. The shockwave exploded into the sky. The clouds split. Wind blasted outward in every direction. The enormous storm began breaking apart. Izuku continued pushing. Move. Boom. Another shockwave. The clouds separated further. The sky above Lungmen slowly became visible. Sunlight pierced through the darkness. People below stopped moving. They looked upward. Izuku floated in the middle of the sky. His body was surrounded by fading green lightning. The storm had been broken apart. Not completely destroyed, but weakened enough for the catastrophe to change course. Amiya stared upward. He did it. Heen looked at the sky. He actually did it. Izuku descended. Whoosh. He landed heavily on the roof. His knees nearly buckled. Amiya rushed toward him. Izuku. He caught himself. I'm fine. You almost collapsed. Almost. Amiya sighed. You're impossible. Izuku smiled. The civilians are safe. Yes. He relaxed. Good. Then he looked toward the sky. The sunlight was returning. The people of Lungmen began emerging from shelters. Some pointed toward him. Others simply stared. A little infected child raised both hands excitedly. Izuku waved back. The child smiled. That evening, the remaining reunion forces began withdrawing. Some surrendered. Some disappeared into the countryside. Others remained determined to continue the fight. But the atmosphere had changed. Patriot's death had left a wound. The destruction of the catastrophe had left another. And yet the people of Lungmen had survived. Izuku stood on the landship's observation deck. Amiya approached. "You know what everyone is calling you." Izuku looked nervous. "What?" "The green hero." Izuku laughed. "That's embarrassing." Amiya smiled. "You stopped a catastrophe." "Not completely. You saved thousands." Izuku looked toward the city. "We saved them." Amiya nodded. "Yes." Izuku opened his notebook. He wrote, "Patriot's final request. Protect them." He stared at the sentence. Then added another line, "I'll keep doing it." He closed the notebook. Behind him, the Rhodes Island landship began moving. Lungmen slowly disappeared into the distance. But the journey wasn't over. Far ahead, beyond the cities and battlefields, a much greater threat was waiting. And somewhere within that darkness, the dragon of reunion was preparing to rise. The Rhodes Island landship moved through the wasteland beneath a dark sky. Izuku stood near the front of the deck, watching the horizon. The city of Chernobog was visible in the distance. But something was different. The enormous city was moving. Izuku narrowed his eyes. "That's not a normal city." Amiya stood beside him. "Chernobog is a mobile city. It's moving toward Lungmen." "Yes." Izuku looked at the massive structure. "Then we have a problem." The doctor approached. "We've received new information." Izuku turned. "What happened?" Amiya looked at the map. "Reunion has activated the city's movement systems." Keen's expression became serious. "Talulah." Izuku remembered the woman surrounded by flames. "She's behind this." Amiya nodded. "We believe so." Izuku's fists tightened. "Then we have to stop her." The landship approached Chernobog under cover of darkness. The city was enormous. Buildings stretched across its surface like a moving mountain of steel and concrete. Fires burned across several districts. Izuku activated search. His eyes scanned the city. "There are thousands of people inside." Amiya nodded. "Many are civilians. Then we can't just destroy the city." "Exactly." The doctor pointed toward the central district. "Our objective is the command center." Izuku looked at the map. "And Talulah. We don't know where she is." Izuku closed his eyes. Danger sense remained strangely quiet. "That's not good." Amiya looked at him. "Why?" "Because I can't sense her." Keen frowned. "You said your danger sense could detect hostile intent." "Usually." Izuku looked toward the city. "But this time, it's like something is hiding her presence." A cold feeling passed through him. Something else. The Rhodes Island team entered Chernobog. The streets were almost empty. Broken vehicles blocked several roads. The wind carried ash through the air. Izuku walked beside Amiya. "This place feels abandoned." Most civilians were evacuated. Most. Amiya looked ahead. Not everyone could leave. Izuku immediately moved faster. "Then we find them." They entered a damaged building. A faint sound came from below. "Help." Izuku stopped. There. Blackwhip shot through the broken floor. He pulled himself downward. Several civilians were trapped beneath fallen concrete. "Don't worry." Izuku began removing the rubble. "We'll get you out." A little boy stared at his green hair. "Are you a hero?" Izuku smiled. "Something like that." He lifted a massive concrete slab. Boom. The rubble fell aside. Rhodes Island operators carried the civilians out. Izuku followed. Then danger sense suddenly activated. His expression changed. "Everyone down." Whoom. A wall of fire tore through the street. Izuku raised Blackwhip. The tendrils spread around the civilians. The flames crashed against them. Boom. Izuku gritted his teeth. "Stay behind me." Amiya raised her staff. "It's Talulah." Izuku looked toward the flames. A figure emerged from the fire. Talulah. Her eyes were cold. Flames surrounded her body. Izuku stepped forward. "Talulah." She looked at him. "You came back." "Of course." "Why?" Because you're going to hurt innocent people. Talulah's expression hardened. They are already doomed. No. Izuku clenched his fists. They're not. Talulah raised her hand. The entire street began freezing and burning at the same time. Whoom. Izuku jumped. Blackwhip wrapped around a building. He swung through the flames. Amiya, get the civilians out. Right. Talulah released another wave. Izuku punched it. Boom. The flames split apart. He rushed toward her. Stop this. Talulah swung her arm. A blade of fire appeared. Izuku blocked it with Blackwhip. The heat immediately burned through several tendrils. NGH. He pulled back. The Blackwhip regenerated. Talulah stared. Your power is unusual. I've heard that before. Izuku rushed forward again. This time, Talulah vanished into the flames. Danger Sense screamed. Behind. Izuku turned. A massive explosion hit him. Boom. He crashed through two walls. Crack. Dust covered the street. Amiya shouted. Izuku. He emerged from the rubble. I'm okay. Talulah looked at him. Why won't you stop? Izuku wiped blood from his cheek. Because you're still in there. Talulah froze. What? Izuku pointed at her. The person I met before. He stepped forward. You're angry. Another step. You're hurt. Another. But you're not just this. Flames suddenly erupted around Talulah. Roar. A monstrous roar echoed through the city. Izuku's danger sense went wild. That's not her. Amiya stared. What? Izuku looked directly at Talulah. There's something inside her. Talulah's body suddenly convulsed. She grabbed her head. Stop. Her voice changed. A deeper voice echoed from her mouth. She belongs to us. Izuku froze. Black flames appeared around her. They were different from the ordinary fire. They seemed to consume the light around them. Amiya raised her staff. The deathless black snake. Izuku looked at her. What is that? An ancient entity. Amiya's voice trembled. Something that has been manipulating Talulah. Talulah's body straightened. Her eyes became darker. The black flames spread across the street. Boom. Buildings began collapsing. Izuku immediately rushed forward. Talulah. A wall of black fire appeared between them. Izuku punched it. Boom. The flames didn't disappear. His fist began burning. NGH. He pulled back. The black flames crawled across his glove. He immediately used Blackwhip to tear the burning material away. Amiya shouted. Don't touch it. I noticed. Izuku stared at the flames. What do we do? Amiya looked at Talulah. We have to separate her from it. Izuku nodded. Then I'll get her out. He activated full Cowling. Green lightning exploded around his body. One for all surged through his muscles. FA Jin activated. Gear shift followed. Whoom. Izuku rushed through the burning street. Black flames attacked from every direction. Danger sense warned him. Left, right, above, behind. Izuku dodged everything. He reached Talulah. Blackwhip shot forward. It wrapped around her body. I've got you. Talulah screamed. Let me go. No. Izuku pulled. The black flames surged. Boom. Izuku was thrown backward. He landed on the roof of a building. This thing is strong. The black flames continued spreading. Amiya looked around. The entire district is going to collapse. Izuku stood. Then we need to move faster. He looked at Talulah. The woman was trapped inside the flames. Izuku clenched his fist. I'm coming for you. Talulah's body rose into the air. Black flames surrounded her like a massive dragon. Roar. The roar shook the city. Izuku looked upward. That's not good. The dragon opened its jaws. A huge sphere of black fire began forming. Amiya's eyes widened. Izuku. I know. The sphere grew larger. Izuku stepped forward. Green lightning intensified. He drew his fist back. One for all. FA Jin. Gear shift. Blackwhip. Float. All of his abilities activated simultaneously. The air around him distorted. I'm not letting you destroy this city. He jumped. Whoom. Izuku flew directly toward the black dragon. The dragon fired. Whoom. A massive beam of black fire tore through the sky. Izuku twisted around it. The attack missed by centimeters. He continued upward. Blackwhip wrapped around Talulah. Got you. He pulled her away from the flames. The black dragon roared. Roar. Izuku gritted his teeth. Let her go. The black flames attacked him. Izuku used Blackwhip to create a barrier. Boom. The impact sent him spinning. He recovered in midair. Talulah screamed. Run. Izuku looked at her. No. You'll die. Not today. Talulah stared at him. Izuku smiled. I promised to protect people. Green lightning exploded around his body. And that includes you. The black flames surged toward him. Izuku charged directly into them. Whoom. The entire sky above Chernobog turned green and black. Amiya watched from below. Izuku. The battle had changed. This was no longer a fight against Reunion. It was a fight against something ancient hiding inside one of Terra's most dangerous warriors. And Izuku had decided that Talulah would not face it alone. The sky above Chernobog had turned black. Flames covered the upper sections of the moving city. But these were not ordinary flames. They were darker than the night itself, twisting through the air like living creatures. Roar! The enormous black dragon roared above the city. Izuku flew directly toward it. Green lightning covered his body. Blackwhip stretched behind him like dozens of dark tendrils. Let her go. The dragon answered with another roar. The black flames rushed toward him. Whoom. Izuku activated Danger Sense. He twisted through the first wave. Another came from below. He kicked away from the air and changed direction. A third wave appeared behind him. Blackwhip shot forward. Izuku swung around it. The flames missed by centimeters. Too close. He looked toward Talulah. She was suspended inside the center of the black flames. Her eyes were glowing with an unnatural darkness. Talulah. She looked at him. Run. No. You can't beat it. Izuku continued flying toward her. I don't need to beat it. Talulah stared at him. Then what are you doing? Getting you out. The black flames suddenly changed direction. They surrounded Izuku from every side. His danger sense exploded. This is bad. He immediately activated Blackwhip. Dozens of tendrils spread outward. They connected to buildings, towers, and broken structures across Chernobog. Izuku pulled himself sideways. Whoom. The flames closed behind him. Boom. They collided and exploded. Izuku looked back. The explosion had swallowed several buildings. I can't let that happen again. He turned toward Talulah. Amiya. His communicator crackled. Izuku. I need you to evacuate everyone from this district. We're already doing it. Good. Izuku took a breath. Keep them as far away as possible. What are you going to do? Izuku looked at the black dragon. I'm going to separate Talulah from those flames. Amiya went silent. Can you? I'll try. Izuku. Be careful. I will. Talulah screamed. The black flames erupted from her body. Whoom. Izuku was thrown backward. He crashed into a building. Boom. Concrete shattered around him. He fell several floors before Blackwhip caught a broken support beam. Izuku stopped himself. NGH. His breathing became heavier. The black flames were different from anything he had fought before. They weren't simply hot. They reacted to his attacks. They seemed to recognize his movements. Izuku looked at his burned glove. This isn't normal fire. He removed the damaged glove. It's almost like it's alive. One of the vestiges spoke inside his mind. Don't let it consume you. Izuku's eyes narrowed. I know. Another voice followed. Your Blackwhip can restrain it. Izuku looked at the tendrils around his arms. That's what I'm thinking. The vestiges remained silent. Izuku took a deep breath. Then let's do it. Izuku launched himself toward Talulah again. Whoom. The black flames attacked. He didn't dodge this time. Blackwhip exploded from his arms. Hundreds of tendrils spread through the sky. They wrapped around the black flames. The moment they made contact, the flames began crawling along them. Izuku gritted his teeth. Come on. The black fire traveled toward his arms. His skin began burning. NGH. He tightened his grip. Blackwhip. The tendrils became thicker. He pulled the flames away from Talulah. The black dragon roared. Roar. Its body began twisting. Izuku's eyes widened. It's resisting. The flames pulled back. Izuku pulled harder. Not happening. Green lightning exploded around him. One for all surged through his body. 45%. Then 50. FA Jin activated. Gear shift followed. His body accelerated. Whoom. The black flames began moving away from Talulah. For a moment, her body became visible. Izuku saw her face. She was crying. Talulah. Her eyes opened. Izuku. Hold on. I can't. You can. The black flames suddenly surged again. Boom. Izuku was thrown away. He spun through the air. Blackwhip caught a building. He swung around it and returned. Again. He flew directly toward Talulah. The black flames formed a giant mouth. Roar. Izuku didn't stop. Smash. Boom. His fist struck the center of the flames. The explosion pushed the fire backward. But the flames immediately returned. Izuku gritted his teeth. Physical attacks aren't enough. He looked at Talulah. Then I'll use something else. Izuku spread both arms. Blackwhip erupted from his body. The tendrils covered the entire battlefield. They wrapped around buildings, street lamps, bridges, debris, even the black flames themselves. The entire district became connected by a massive web of black energy. Amiya looked upward. What is he doing? The doctor stared at the monitor. He's creating a containment field. Izuku pulled his arms inward. Everyone stay clear. The blackwhip tightened. Crack. The flames were compressed. The black dragon struggled. Roar. Izuku's feet trembled. Come on. The flames pushed outward. Izuku pushed back. Green lightning exploded around his body. You're not taking her. The black flames surged again. Izuku's blackwhip began burning. Pieces of the tendrils broke apart. But more appeared. One for all. Green lightning spread through every strand. The blackwhip became reinforced with his power. I won't let you. The flames began shrinking. Talulah's body slowly became visible. Izuku. Almost. The black dragon roared. Roar. Izuku pulled with everything he had. Get out of her. The black flames were ripped away. Boom. A massive explosion filled the sky. Izuku was thrown backward. Talulah fell. Talulah. Izuku launched himself after her. Whoom. He caught her before she hit the ground. She was unconscious. Izuku held her tightly. I've got you. He landed on a rooftop. Amiya rushed toward him. Izuku. She's alive. Amiya checked Talulah. Her pulse is weak. Then we need to get her to Rhodes Island. Amiya nodded. Yes. Behind them, the black flames began gathering again. Izuku turned. His expression hardened. It's not finished. The flames twisted into the shape of a giant serpent. Its eyes opened. Izuku placed Talulah into Amiya's arms. Take her. Amiya looked at him. What about you? Izuku stepped forward. Blackwhip emerged from his arms. I'll keep it busy. Alone. I'll be fine. Amiya shook her head. Izuku. Please. Amiya stopped. Izuku looked at her. Get Talulah somewhere safe. After a moment, Amiya nodded. We'll come back. I know. Amiya carried Talulah away. Izuku turned toward the black serpent. The creature stared at him. There was no face, no mouth. Yet Izuku could hear its voice. You cannot save her. Izuku clenched his fists. Watch me. The serpent released a massive wave of black fire. Whoom. Izuku spread Blackwhip across the rooftop. The tendrils formed a giant shield. Boom. The flames struck. Izuku was pushed backward. His feet tore through the concrete. NGH. He continued holding. The fire began spreading around the shield. Izuku's eyes narrowed. You're persistent. The flames wrapped around him. His costume began burning. Izuku immediately activated float. He rose into the air. Blackwhip shot toward the serpent. It wrapped around its body. Got you. The serpent resisted. Izuku pulled. Come here. Gear shift activated. Whoom. Izuku accelerated. The serpent was dragged toward him. Izuku raised his fist. Detroit smash. Boom. The punch struck the black flames. The entire sky shook. The serpent was thrown backward. Izuku landed. He was breathing heavily. The black flames continued burning. But they had become smaller. Izuku smiled. That's it. He wiped blood from his mouth. You're not invincible. The serpent roared. Roar. It rushed toward him. Izuku lowered his stance. Green lightning surrounded his body. Then let's finish this. Inside the Rhodes Island medical section, Talulah slowly opened her eyes. Amiya sat beside her. Talulah. Talulah looked around. Where? You're safe. Talulah's eyes widened. Izuku. Amiya looked toward the medical window. Green flashes could still be seen in the distant sky. He's still fighting. Talulah's expression changed. He shouldn't. Amiya nodded. He knows. Talulah looked down at her hands. Why? Why is he doing this? Amiya smiled faintly. Because that's who he is. Talulah closed her eyes. For a moment, she remembered the words Izuku had said before. You're still in there. Her hands trembled. I don't want him to die. Amiya looked at her. Then help us bring him back. Talulah opened her eyes. For the first time in a long time, the fire in them was not filled with anger. It was fear. Fear for someone else. Outside, Izuku continued fighting. His body was covered in burns. His costume was almost destroyed. But he remained standing. The black serpent hovered above him. Izuku looked upward. You wanted to control her. He clenched his fist. But you made one mistake. Green lightning erupted around his body. You made her want to fight back. The black serpent roared. Roar. Izuku launched himself upward. Whoom. Blackwhip spread behind him. One for all surged through his entire body. And this time, he wasn't trying to destroy the flames. He was going to tear them away from Talulah completely. The sky above Chernobog was still burning. Black flames twisted around the remains of several buildings while green lightning flashed between them. Boom. Izuku crashed through a wall and rolled across the rooftop. His breathing was heavy. His costume was torn. Burn marks covered his arms. He pushed himself up. That thing really doesn't know when to quit. The black serpent hovered above the city. Its enormous body was formed entirely from dark flames. Roar. Izuku raised his head. Yeah. I heard you. The serpent opened its jaws. A sphere of black fire began forming. Izuku's danger sense screamed. Not good. He immediately activated float. Whoom. He rose into the air. The black flame shot past him. Boom. The building behind him disappeared in an explosion. Izuku stared at the destruction. If that keeps happening, Chernobog won't survive. He looked toward the Rhodes Island landship. Amiya and the others were evacuating civilians. Talulah was being treated inside. Izuku clenched his fist. Then I need to end this. The black serpent suddenly disappeared. Izuku froze. Danger sense remained silent. Where did it go? He activated search. Nothing. He turned. Still nothing. Then a whisper entered his mind. You cannot find me. Izuku's eyes widened. You're inside her. The voice laughed. She is mine. Izuku looked toward the medical section. No, you cannot reach her. I don't have to reach you. Izuku lowered his stance. I only need to reach her. The black flames suddenly surrounded him. Whoom. Izuku's vision became black. He opened his eyes. The battlefield was gone. There were no buildings, no smoke, no sky. Izuku stood in a vast black space. Where am I? His voice echoed. Then he heard footsteps. Tap, tap, tap. A young woman appeared in the distance. Talulah. But she looked different. She wasn't surrounded by flames. She looked tired. Izuku walked toward her. Talulah. She stopped. You shouldn't be here. Izuku looked around. Where is this? My mind. Izuku stared at her. So this is where it's hiding. Talulah shook her head. You can't defeat it here. Why? Because it has been with me for years. She looked down. It knows every memory I've ever had. Izuku walked closer. Then I'll help you. Talulah looked at him. You can't. Why not? Because this is my battle. Izuku shook his head. No. Talulah frowned. What? You've been fighting alone for too long. Izuku extended his hand. Let me help. Talulah stared at his hand. Then the darkness behind her began moving. A massive black eye opened. Pathetic. The voice echoed through the entire space. You believe friendship will save her. Izuku turned. No. Green lightning appeared around his body. I believe she can save herself. Talulah's eyes widened. The black entity laughed. Then watch. The darkness exploded. Boom. Memories flooded around them. Talulah as a child. Her father. Her brother. Her village. War. Death. Fire. Betrayal. Izuku watched silently. Another memory appeared. Talulah standing beside infected refugees. Another. People being executed. Another. Her anger. Another. The moment the black serpent first entered her mind. Talulah fell to her knees. Stop. The memories continued. Stop. Izuku stepped beside her. Talulah. She covered her ears. I don't want to see this anymore. Izuku crouched beside her. Then don't look. She stared at him. What? Look at me. Talulah hesitated. Then she slowly raised her eyes. Izuku pointed toward himself. Right here. The memories continued moving around them. Izuku didn't look away. You're here. Talulah's breathing became steadier. I'm here. Yes. But those memories. They're yours. Izuku nodded. But they don't control what you do next. Talulah's eyes trembled. The black serpent appeared behind them. She belongs to me. Izuku turned. No. The serpent attacked. Whoom. Black flames rushed toward them. Izuku stepped in front of Talulah. Blackwhip erupted from his arms. The flames crashed against it. Boom. Izuku was pushed backward. His feet dug into the ground. Stay behind me. Talulah shook her head. You can't protect me forever. Izuku smiled. I know. He looked at her. That's why I'm not going to. Talulah stared. Then what are you doing? Giving you enough time to stand. The serpent attacked again. Roar. Izuku pulled Blackwhip outward. The flames split around him. Now. Talulah slowly stood. What? Fight it. She looked at the black serpent. Fear appeared in her eyes. Izuku kept holding the flames back. You've spent years running from it. Talulah clenched her fists. I can't. You can. I'm afraid. That's okay. Izuku gritted his teeth as the pressure increased. You don't have to stop being afraid. Green lightning spread across his body. Just don't let fear make the decision for you. Talulah looked at the serpent. The creature's voice echoed. You are weak. Talulah's hands trembled. You're nothing without me. She closed her eyes. Then she remembered something. Izuku's voice. You're still in there. Her eyes opened. No. The serpent paused. Talulah stepped forward. I'm not yours. The black flames surged. Izuku's Blackwhip began breaking. Crack. Izuku. Keep going. Talulah raised her hands. Red flames appeared around her. The black serpent attacked. Talulah stepped forward. Her fire collided with the darkness. Boom. The entire mental space shook. Izuku grabbed several strands of Blackwhip. Talulah, I'm trying. Don't fight it alone. Talulah looked at him. Izuku reached out his hand. Take it. She grabbed his hand. The moment their hands touched, one for all surged through Izuku's body. Green lightning spread through the darkness. The vestiges appeared behind him. Talulah stared. What are they? People who came before me. One of the vestiges stepped forward. Your enemy feeds on isolation. Another added. Then don't give it any. Talulah looked around. More figures appeared beside Izuku. Not soldiers. Not warriors. Memories. People who had supported him. People who had fought beside him. People he had saved. Talulah's eyes widened. You carry all of them with you. Izuku nodded. Yes. He tightened his grip. And now you don't have to stand alone either. The black serpent screamed. Roar. The entire space began collapsing. Talulah's red flames expanded. Izuku's green lightning mixed with them. The two energies spread across the darkness. The serpent began shrinking. No. Izuku pulled. Blackwhip wrapped around the creature. You're coming out. The serpent resisted. She belongs to me. Talulah stepped forward. No. Her voice was steady. I belong to myself. The black serpent screamed. Izuku pulled harder. Now. Talulah released her flames. Boom. The black entity was ripped away. The entire mental space exploded with light. Outside Chernobog, the black flames suddenly stopped. Amiya looked upward. What happened? The flames around Talulah began disappearing. Izuku fell from the sky. Izuku. Amiya rushed forward. Blackwhip caught the side of a building. Izuku swung downward and landed on the ground. Boom. He dropped to one knee. I'm okay. Amiya looked toward Talulah. She was lying several meters away. The black flames were gone. Only ordinary fire remained around her. Did you do it? Izuku looked at Talulah. We did. Amiya blinked. We. Izuku smiled. She fought back. Talulah slowly opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was the sky. Then Izuku's face appeared above her. You're awake. Talulah stared at him. It's gone. Izuku nodded. For now. Talulah sat up slowly. You entered my mind. Yeah, you saw everything. Izuku became quiet. Some of it. Talulah looked away. Then you know what I've done. I know you made mistakes. She looked at him. Mistakes. Bad ones. Izuku didn't soften his words. People died. Talulah lowered her head. Yes. You hurt people. Yes. You helped start a war. Talulah's eyes closed. Yes. Izuku sat beside her. But you're still alive. Talulah looked at him. What does that change? It means you can make different choices. She remained silent. Izuku smiled faintly. You can't undo what happened. Talulah looked toward the burning city. Then what can I do? Start by helping us save everyone still alive. Talulah stared at him. After several seconds, she nodded. I'll try. Izuku stood. That's enough for now. Amiya approached them. Talulah. Talulah looked at her. There was tension between them. Years of conflict could not disappear in a single moment. Amiya lowered her staff. We'll take you with us. Talulah looked surprised. You trust me? No. Amiya answered honestly. Not yet. Izuku smiled. Fair. Amiya continued. But I believe people can choose what they become next. Talulah looked at Izuku. He nodded. She's right. Far above them, the last remnants of black flames disappeared into the sky. For the first time in years, Talulah could hear her own thoughts without another voice whispering inside them. Izuku looked toward Chernobog. The city was still damaged. People were still suffering. The war wasn't over. But one of its greatest threats had been separated from the woman who carried it. And now Talulah had to face the consequences of her own choices. This time, she would face them awake. The morning after the battle was strangely quiet. Chernobog was still damaged. Smoke rose from broken buildings, Fires burned across several districts, and countless streets were filled with rubble. But the black flames were gone. Talulah was alive, and the deathless black snake no longer controlled her. Izuku stood on the roof of a damaged building, looking across the city. His arms were covered in bandages. His costume was almost completely ruined. Amiya approached him. "You should still be resting." Izuku looked over his shoulder. "I've rested enough. You fought Talulah and that creature almost by yourself." "Almost." Amiya smiled. "You really don't know how to take a compliment." Izuku laughed. "Maybe." He looked back toward the city. "How many people survived?" "Most of the civilians we reached." Izuku sighed in relief. "Good." The doctor approached with several operators. "We have another problem." Izuku turned. "What happened?" "Reunion is breaking apart." Amiya frowned. "Because of Patriot." "Partially." The doctor pointed toward the map. "Some Reunion members are surrendering. Others are fleeing. But several groups are blaming Rhodes Island for everything that happened." Izuku frowned. "They're going to keep fighting." "Yes." Keen joined them. "And some Lungmen officials want revenge." Izuku looked at her. "Against Reunion. Against the infected." His expression immediately hardened. "What?" Keen's face remained serious. "Some officials believe the infected are responsible for the destruction." Izuku clenched his fists. "That's not true." "I know." "Then stop them." Keen looked at him. "It's not that simple." Izuku stared at her. "Why not?" "Because Lungmen is afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Another war." Izuku became silent. Keen continued. "If we suddenly change our policies, some people will believe we're supporting Reunion." Izuku looked toward the streets below. Infected civilians were being transported into temporary shelters. Some were injured. Some were crying. Others simply stared at the ground. So they're going to suffer because everyone is afraid of what happens next. Keen didn't answer. Izuku looked at Amiya. "Then we need to show them another option." Rhodes Island organized a temporary medical center in one of Chernobog's surviving districts. Doctors treated injured civilians regardless of their infection status. Operators distributed food and water. Izuku helped carry injured people from the ruins. A young infected man sat against a wall. Crystals were visible along his arm. Izuku crouched beside him. "Does it hurt?" The man looked suspiciously at him. "A little." Izuku handed him a bottle of water. "Here." The man stared at it. "You're not afraid." Izuku looked at the crystals. "Should I be?" "Most people are." Izuku shook his head. "You're injured." He pointed toward the man's arm. "That's all I see." The man looked away. "You don't know what it's like." Izuku nodded. "No." He stood. "But I can listen." The man looked up. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then he accepted the water. "Thank you." Izuku smiled. "You're welcome." News spread quickly. Rhodes Island had rescued civilians. Patriot had fallen. Talulah had been captured alive. And an unknown outsider had fought against the deathless black snake. But the most surprising news was something else. Talulah had begun cooperating. She gave Rhodes Island information about Reunion's remaining forces. She revealed the locations of several hidden shelters. She even provided information about infected prisoners being held by radical groups. Izuku watched the reports in silence. "She's really helping." Amiya nodded. "Yes. That's good. You trust her." Izuku thought for a moment. "I trust that she's trying." Amiya smiled. "That's different." "Yeah." Izuku looked at Talulah through the medical room's window. She was sitting quietly while Calcit examined her. "She has a lot to answer for." Amiya nodded. "She does. But if she can help people now, we should let her." Later that afternoon, a meeting was held. Representatives from Rhodes Island, Lungmen, and several other groups gathered around a large table. The atmosphere was tense. One official slammed his hand onto the table. "Reunion has murdered thousands." Another answered. And Lungmen has done nothing but push the infected further into poverty. The argument quickly grew louder. Izuku stood near the back of the room. He listened. One side blamed Reunion. Another blamed Lungmen. Another blamed the infected. Another blamed Rhodes Island. Everyone had someone to accuse. Finally, Izuku stepped forward. The room became quiet. "Can I say something?" Several representatives looked at him. One frowned. "This isn't your world." Izuku nodded. "I know. Then why should we listen?" Izuku looked at the people around the table. "Because you're all talking about people like their numbers." Silence. Izuku continued. "Reunion lost people." He pointed toward the Lungmen representatives. "Lungmen lost people." Then toward Rhodes Island. "We lost people too." He took a breath. "But there are still people alive." Nobody interrupted. "If everyone keeps fighting over who suffered more, the people who are still alive are going to suffer next." One official shook his head. "You think peace is that simple?" "No," Izuku answered immediately. "I think it's difficult." He looked toward the window. "But killing more people won't make the dead come back." The room remained silent. Patriot understood that. Izuku's voice became quieter. He fought for his people because he believed they deserved to live. He looked at the officials. So did the people of Lungmen. Then he pointed toward the medical center outside. And so did the infected. One representative stood. "What are you proposing?" Izuku answered. "Stop treating infected civilians like enemies." Another asked. "And Reunion? Those who surrender should be given a chance to live. And those who continue attacking." Izuku's expression became serious. "We stop them." He paused. "But we don't punish everyone because of what some of them did." Amiya stepped forward. "Rhodes Island supports this." Keen looked at the representatives. "Lungmen can begin with humanitarian corridors." The room became quieter. One by one, several representatives began discussing practical measures. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But for the first time, people were discussing how to prevent another war instead of how to win one. That evening, Izuku stood outside the medical center. Talulah walked toward him. She was wearing a simple Rhodes Island medical uniform. "You were in the meeting?" "Yes. You spoke for me." Izuku shook his head. "Not for you." Talulah looked confused. "Then who?" "The people who don't have a seat at the table." Talulah looked toward the shelter. Hundreds of infected civilians were receiving food and medical treatment. "You really believe this can change?" Izuku looked at her. "I don't know." Talulah frowned. "Then why keep trying?" Izuku smiled. "Because it already changed something." She looked around. "What? You?" Talulah became silent. Izuku continued. "Yesterday, you were fighting everyone. And today you're helping us." Talulah looked down. "I don't know if I deserve another chance." "Maybe you don't." She looked at him. "Then why?" "Because people need one." Talulah's eyes trembled. She looked away. "You make everything sound simple." Izuku laughed. "It's not simple." "Then why do you smile?" "Because crying won't help me carry people out of burning buildings." Talulah gave a small laugh. It was the first time Izuku had heard her laugh. "You're strange. I've heard that before." The next morning, Rhodes Island began moving again. The landship was preparing to leave Chernobog. Izuku stood on the deck. Amiya approached. "Are you ready?" "Yes. We still have a lot to do." Izuku nodded. "I know." The doctor appeared behind them. "There's already interest from several territories." Izuku looked confused. "Interest? They want to know who you are." Izuku sighed. "Great. Amiya laughed. "You've become famous." "That's not what I wanted." Too late. Izuku looked at the horizon. Terra was enormous. There were countless nations, countless conflicts, countless people suffering from Oripathy. And there were still enemies who wanted war. But now there were also people willing to talk. That was enough for him to keep moving. The landship began accelerating. Whoom. Chernobog slowly disappeared behind them. Izuku looked toward the city one final time. Patriot. He remembered the old warrior's final request. Protect them. Izuku clenched his fist. Green lightning flickered around his fingers. I'll keep going. Amiya stood beside him. Where to next? Izuku smiled. Wherever someone needs help. The Rhodes Island landship continued across the vast land of Terra. Behind them remained a city that had survived war. Ahead waited new enemies, new allies, and new conflicts. Terra was far from being saved. But now, more people were willing to believe that saving it was possible. The Rhodes Island landship moved steadily across the open wasteland. The sun was rising. For the first time in several days, there were no explosions behind them. No burning buildings. No armies marching through the streets. Izuku stood at the front of the deck, watching the horizon. His injuries had mostly healed. The bandages around his arms were gone. Only a few marks remained. Amiya walked toward him. You're awake early. Izuku smiled. Couldn't sleep. Thinking about Chernobog. Yeah. Amiya stood beside him. How does it feel? Izuku looked at the horizon. Strange. Strange. We actually made it out. Amiya smiled. Yes. Izuku looked down at his hands. Patriot is gone. Yes. The infected are still suffering. Yes. Reunion isn't completely gone. No. Izuku sighed. So there's still a lot left to do. Amiya nodded. There always is. Izuku smiled. Then that's fine. The doors behind them opened. Talulah stepped onto the deck. She was still under medical supervision. Several operators watched her carefully. She ignored them. Izuku. He turned. Talulah. She stopped beside him. I wanted to thank you. Izuku blinked. For what? For giving me another chance. Izuku scratched his cheek. I didn't give you anything. You did. Talulah looked toward the horizon. When I was trapped inside that darkness, I had already given up. She clenched her hands. You kept telling me that I was still there. Izuku nodded. Because you were. Talulah looked at him. I almost killed you. Yeah. I almost destroyed Chernobog. Yeah. And you still came for me. Izuku smiled. That's what heroes do. Talulah looked confused. You keep using that word. Hero. Yes. Izuku nodded. It's what I want to be. Talulah looked toward the city in the distance. I don't think Terra has many people like you. Izuku laughed. Maybe that's why I ended up here. The landship suddenly slowed. Izuku looked toward the command room. What happened? A Rhodes Island operator stepped onto the deck. We've received a transmission. Amiya approached. From where? Several cities. Izuku frowned. Why? The operator handed Amiya a tablet. She read the message. Her eyes widened. What is it? They're asking about you. Izuku pointed at himself. Me. Amiya nodded. Yes. Why? Because of what happened in Chernobog. The operator continued. The story spread quickly. Izuku looked uncomfortable. What story? Amiya read from the report. An outsider saved infected civilians during the catastrophe. Another line. He fought Reunion without killing their soldiers. Another. He defeated a powerful warrior without abandoning his principles. Izuku covered his face. Please stop. Amiya laughed. There's more. No. Some cities are calling you the Green Star. Izuku slowly lowered his hands. The what? The Green Star of Terra. Izuku stared. That's terrible. Amiya laughed harder. Talulah smiled. I think it's fitting. Izuku looked at her. You're supposed to be on my side. I am. She smiled. That's why I agree. Later that day, the Rhodes Island command room held a meeting. Several communications from different territories were displayed. Some requested assistance. Others offered cooperation. One message came from a city struggling with infected refugees. Another requested medical supplies. Another wanted Rhodes Island to investigate a new outbreak of Oripathy. Izuku stared at the screens. There are so many. Calcit stood nearby. Terra is a large place. Izuku nodded. Then we need more people. Calcit raised an eyebrow. More people. Operators. You intend to recruit them? Not exactly. Izuku pointed toward the messages. There are people everywhere who want to help. Calcit crossed her arms. And what do you propose? Izuku smiled. Teach them. Teach them what? How to protect people without becoming another army. Calcit remained silent. Izuku continued. Rhodes Island already has doctors, operators, engineers, and people who understand medicine. He looked toward Amiya. We could create training programs. Amiya's eyes brightened. For civilians. For anyone willing to help. Calcit looked at him. You want to create a network of independent rescue groups. Exactly. That would take years. Izuku nodded. Then we'll start today. Calcit stared at him for several seconds. Finally, she sighed. You really don't know when to stop. Izuku smiled. Not when people need help. Months passed. The situation across several regions slowly began changing. Rhodes Island continued treating infected patients. Humanitarian corridors were established. Some former reunion members surrendered. Others joined reconstruction efforts. Not everyone accepted the changes. Some cities still discriminated against the infected. Some groups still wanted revenge. Some enemies remained determined to destroy Rhodes Island. But something had changed. People had begun talking. And Izuku became a familiar sight across the land. He rescued civilians from collapsing buildings. He stopped armed conflicts. He carried injured people to safety. He fought when fighting was unavoidable. And when it wasn't, he talked. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it didn't. But he kept going. One evening, Izuku stood on the roof of the Rhodes Island landship. The stars were visible above Terra. Amiya joined him. You've changed. Izuku looked at her. Have I? Yes. How? Amiya smiled. When you first arrived, you wanted to save everyone immediately. Izuku laughed. I still do. I know. She looked toward the horizon. But now you understand that saving someone isn't always about winning a battle. Izuku nodded. Yeah, you've learned a lot. So have you. Amiya looked at him. Me. Izuku nodded. You're stronger than when I met you. Amiya smiled. Thanks. They stood quietly. Then Izuku heard footsteps. Talulah walked onto the roof. There you are. Izuku turned. What happened? Nothing. She looked at the stars. I just wanted to see them. Izuku moved aside. There's plenty of room. Talulah stood beside them. For several minutes, none of them spoke. Then she asked, do you think Terra can really change? Izuku looked at the world below. Yes. Talulah frowned. Even after everything. Yes. Why? Izuku smiled. Because I've already seen it happen. He pointed toward the landship. Rhodes Island. Then toward the distant cities. Lungmen. Then toward the people working below. All those people. He looked at Talulah. You. Talulah's eyes widened slightly. Izuku continued. None of it happened overnight. He clenched his fist. Green lightning flickered around his fingers. But it started. The next morning, Rhodes Island received another transmission. This one was different. It came from a remote settlement. The village had suffered an Originium outbreak. There were infected children. Medical supplies were running low. They needed help. Izuku read the message. He immediately stood. We're going. Amiya smiled. I knew you'd say that. The doctor began issuing orders. Operators prepared equipment. The engines of the landship started. Whoom. Izuku stood at the front of the deck. The wind pushed against his hair. Green lightning flickered across his body. He looked toward the horizon. Terra stretched endlessly before him. There were still wars. Still discrimination. Still catastrophes. Still enemies. But there were also people willing to help each other. Izuku smiled. Let's go. The landship accelerated. Whoom. Amiya stood beside him. Where are we going? Izuku looked ahead. Wherever someone needs saving. Years later, many people across Terra would remember the strange outsider who had appeared during the chaos of Chernobog. Some would remember his impossible strength. Others would remember the green lightning. Some would remember the battles against Reunion. Some would remember the day he stood against an ancient creature of flame. But the infected remembered something else. They remembered a young man who never looked at their crystals first. They remembered someone who asked if they were hurt. Someone who carried them out of burning buildings. Someone who stood between them and soldiers. Someone who believed that being infected did not make them less human. His name was Izuku Midoriya. To Rhodes Island, he was an operator. To Amiya, he was a trusted friend. To the people of Lungmen, he became a symbol of hope. And to many across Terra, he became known as the Green Star. Not because he was the strongest person on the continent. Not because he had defeated every enemy. But because whenever someone was trapped in the darkness, green lightning eventually appeared on the horizon. Womb. Izuku Midoriya continued forward, and Terra still had a long way to go.